It was never their podcast. From the very beginning, it was mine, and they were simply allowed to host it. A quote from The Journal of Minnie of Cincinnati, translated by Cadet Khan.
Welcome back to Between Pages and Friends, a book club podcast hosted by Con and Lauren, two book-loving besties, and Jon and Kyle, their real-life book boyfriends. I'm Jon.
I'm Lauren.
I'm Kyle.
And I'm Con. In today's episode, we are discussing the end of Iron Flame from the Empyrean Series by Rebecca Yarros. This is a book club style podcast, meaning there will be no spoilers here for future books. So if you've only read up to this point, this is a safe space to read along with us. We would love for you to share this podcast with your book besties and or significant other as well, so you can enjoy this epic series together too.
Additionally, this is your mild content warning. Iron Flame is a nude... it is sometimes nude, but it's a new adult book. Meaning it was written for audiences 18 and up. Therefore, our conversations about this book are best suited to adults. We'll be discussing themes and quotes from this section that include chomp chomps and womp womps.
Yeah. We'd love to have you as part of our Patreon family and get to know you more. We have two tier options for you to choose from. One is $5 a month and the other is $10 a month. You can join our Discord, chat, share theories, and be just nerdy together. Plus, we have live events, monthly book clubs, merch discounts, and a ton more. We can't wait to welcome you into our community of bookworms, so head over to Patreon and see which tier works best for you. You can find the link in the description box below.
Lastly, the best way to support any podcast is by writing a review on Audible or Apple Podcasts. It only takes a moment and it makes a lasting impact, helping our show reach more book besties. Here's a recent 5-star review on Audible from our new bestie, 223467899964. So perfect. I read Throne of Glass with them all the way through, and I could not stop laughing with them, even though they cried so much, and I didn't cry once during the entire series. So it's hilarious how much they cried. Thank you so much, 223467899964. You're the best.
Do you want to take a moment and explain why your voice is the way it is today? So people aren't just like, is she dying?
Yeah, I am dying. No, I'm a choir teacher, in case people didn't know that, and I had a big event yesterday. So I worked like 21 hours with students
21.
while they sang songs, and I had to yell over said songs to get them to do the correct things or in the bus and make sure everybody was together and all the stuff. So, sorry. I have some tea, and hopefully
And they're going to finals, baby!
Nationals!
We're going to regionals!
Galacticals! What would that even be called?
Galacticals.
Is that what it would be? I don't know.
I don't know.
Miss Universe.
Yes. It is show choir, but it is not like Glee. We did go to finals, but we don't go to regionals or nationals or anything else. And we've been working all year long to learn the few songs that we sang yesterday. We didn't just learn them in a day. But, that's okay.
There is drama, though, like Glee.
That is true. But I am not Mr. Schuster. I'm a lot better.
Nice.
Yep.
It's a pretty high bar.
Is it? He's kind of a weirdo.
I don't know. I barely remember
Never seen the
Glee.
The real ones out there will know.
The fake ones won't.
Yeah.
Take that, fake one.
Anyway, sorry my voice sucks today.
It's okay. Just don't talk. Moving on to the pronunciation guy.
I'm proud of you for
What
crushing
it means
it.
to say is to rest your voice.
Yeah, that's
Same thing.
what I said. I don't know.
I have been really trying to rest all day so I could be ready for tonight.
Do you have your dry erase board handy?
I don't know how that will help on the podcast, but
I know. Well, Kyle will read it for you.
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I don't trust anything he'll say. It's not gonna be anything what that board says.
Yeah. That would actually be a really funny bit.
It has been interesting today with her going around basically whispering, because it's been like, what are we having for lunch? And I'm like, what are you trying to do right now?
Seductress.
Get away, temptress. Probably grilled cheese. I don't know.
Oh, that is hilarious.
Welcome back to Khan's final declassified fantasy pronunciation guide for Iron Flame. First up in places, we have Elsum. In characters, we have Captain Greeley, a sound seeker from Melgren's personal unit. Augustine Melgren, this is the first mention of his first name, I believe. King Grethwild, who was killed by a dark wielder a long time ago, supposedly. That's all the information I have on that. Wynn is the red-haired Venin who talks to Violet. Holland is a cadet mentioned in passing. In text and excerpts, we have Terran's personal addendum to the Book of Brennan, as quoted by Violet Sorragale, which just made me laugh, so I'm putting it in here. Magic, a universal study for writers by Colonel Emazine Ruthorn. Major Edvard Tiller's unaccredited study of the Venin, property of the Library of Corden. Interesting. Journal of Lyra of Moraine, translated by Cadet Jacinia Neilwort. And then in Dragons and Griffins, we have Ulysses Cantankerous Green Swordtail, which is pronounced both fawn and fan. So, like in the same sentence almost. So, I guess that's open to interpretation. But this dragon's name, it means weak, faint, or helpless, which is interesting. And then Grime and Maze were two dragons who have been mated for many decades and can communicate across long distances, though we don't know who their riders are or what they look like. But their names mean bite and beauty. And that's all I have for today. So here's Jon with an epic chapter recap for the end of Iron Flame.
Yeah, mama. We're jumping right in. Ooh. They quickly head up to the Wardstone where Brennan has already gathered the assembly and the 6 dragons needed, plus their riders. It's already humming with power from Dane and Xaden imbuing it. The 6 dragons breathe their fire into it, and Violet feels a palpable change, and Dane confirms that he feels it too. Although no time to test it, they immediately fly to the cliffs to head off the horde. Her and Xaden are alone at the top of the mountain, waiting, so they decide to hash it out while they wait. He still isn't direct about his second signet, so she just starts to deduce on her own. And we find out that Xaden is basically an Intensic. Violet is floored, but not the only one, as Terran lets out a growl towards Sigale. Even he didn't know, but now they're the only ones who know. Their conversation is cut short as the horde approaches. Hundreds of wyvern, at least 17 riders, and of course, at the front, the sage. They slow, though, sensing the wards. The sage sends 2 lone wyvern into the wards, and they last a couple seconds before life just leaves them and their bodies pretty much plummet and smash on the ground below. Xaden confirms they're actually dead. Violet releases some of her power in there as warning, and the sage and the horde retreat in frustration. Similar instance, they learn, happened along the cliffs as well, so it seemed to be a coordinated simultaneous attack, so seems like they got kind of lucky there. There's some celebrating once everyone is back in Orisha, but then Vi and Xaden are summoned to the assembly room. Ulysses received a message from Melgren, asking for a meeting, bringing no more than 2 marked ones. Then we learn that something is wrong with their wards because the flyers can still wield their powers within them. They meet Melgren at Athbine. Vi and Xaden have a brief mind convo about his signet. Mira approaches Violet so they can be close as 7 higher-ups of Navarre step into the clearing. Melgren leads the group and their mom is also among them. They start with pleasantries before getting to the reason for the season, the meeting. Melgren tells them the Venin are going to take over Samara, and he asks them for help. He explains that he's seen the battle, but none of them are there, which is why he's asking them. If they do fight, they have King Tauri's word that Navarre will respect the independence of their riot and the city that they're taking refuge in. Then Brennan shows up to Lilith's surprise, obviously, backing up Ulysses about not giving them aid. Mira and Vi stick around and talk with their mom. She tells them to fix their wards and to check the bodies of the wyvern that died. Then she gives Violet Lyra's journal from the archives. It's in Moranian, which Violet can't read. Jacinia will have to be the one to translate it. On the way back, Mira and Vi swing by those wyvern bodies and find a complex rune inside of them. As it hums with energy, the wyvern's eyes crack open, but Vi's able to torch it, and they realize that they need to get those wards fixed ASAP. Vi and Xaden meet on the sparring mat late at night one weekend, his own version of hashing it out. They make some promises that should hopefully start to mend and open their communication. She asks about his mom as well. He explains that it was a marriage contract. She just had to stick around until an heir reached the age of 10, which she did, and then she left. And we find out also when he learned about his second signet, and then he gifts her a few new daggers. In Battle Brief the next day, Devera updates the giant map with new enemy movements. They still try to use it as a learning opportunity for the cadets as they ascertain what the Venin are up to. Violet realizes that Melgren was bluffing about asking for help, since even if Samara did fall, the wards would simply fall back to their natural distance. The hatching grounds would still be protected. But a more alarming thought occurs to Violet, that Samara is just a distraction. The Venin are gathered waiting for the wards to fall right outside of Basgiath and the Vale. They prepare to leave for Basgiath. The Flyers are staying behind because of the wards, since they can't use their power within them. Brennan tries one last time to get the Assembly to agree to send aid, but they're just not budging. Before they leave, Marin gives Violet a crossbow in case she needs it, and off they go. On their way, Violet notices that they're not stopped by any patrols. Melgren has clearly doubled down on his protection at Samara. One by one, Vi, Mira, and Xaden dismount on the bell tower at Basgiath. Lilith appears with Nolan to meet them. Violet tries to tell her mom that they're actually in danger, that someone's going to take down their wards. She doesn't listen, but finally convinces her to go check the ward stone just to make sure it's safe. As Lilith escorts them, Taryn tells her that Chad is worried because he senses the runes around Basgiath. They find 2 guards recently killed and race to the chamber, where they find Jack freaking Barlow and Bade. Jack kills Bade right over the top of the black flame of the wardstone, dousing it, and Bade's body pushes the wardstone, knocking it over and splitting it in 2. The hum of the wardstone disappears. The wards are gone. They question Jack afterwards. Apparently he's been smuggling in weapons of his own, lures for the Venin horde, just like they found in Resin. Before knocking him out, Dane reads his memories. They have about 10 hours till the Wyvern army is upon them. They gather and battle brief. Devera and Lilith basically lay it all out for him, inform them of the lures that Jack planted around the college. They decide that the infantry will begin searching for them around the grounds, and then they split up the riders into grid assignments to protect the college. Brennan shows up with some flyers, and second squad will officially be protecting the grid of the wardstone chamber while Brennan is below trying to mend the wardstone itself. They take positions in their grids and wait for the horde to reach them. Lilith provides some clouds and rain, her way of imbuing their most powerful signet, Violet. It's pretty cool. She lets loose a surge of power at the front when the Wyvern are in range, and as other riders and Wyvern kind of enter their grid or one nearby and in range, she shows great control in taking out quite a few. Shout out to Felix. A small group targets Taryn and Violet, but the rest of the squad is close by to assist. They meet Ryder and Wyvern head-on. A Venin hops on Taryn's back, but Vi is stuck in her seat. So Ree lands in front of Vi to protect her. Ree and the Venin fight. Vi eventually gets him in the chest with that crossbow bolt. Shout out to Marin here. But Sawyer's in trouble, which I will now describe in a play-by-play announcer style for you. Live from the Storm Spire, it's Magnus Thorne, the official, completely unbiased, totally professional announcer of Basgiath's most chaotic airborne battles and disasters. Welcome to the most insane dragon battle of the year, folks. If you're not sweating, screaming, or rethinking your life choices right now, you're either unconscious or already dead. We are live over at the war-torn skies of Basgiath, and let me tell you, things are absolutely unhinged. It's dragon, it's fire, it's blood. I wouldn't say it if it were a cliche, but it might be both here at Welcome to the Thunderdome in the air. Let's get into it. We've got a code red, code scream, code, oh God, it's not like this situation. Aetrum and Riddick are in serious trouble. A nasty, no-good, razor-toothed, demon-spawned, overground buzzard of a wyvern has latched onto Aetrum's hindquarters. Things are looking grim. Wyverns are closing in fast, teeth bared, fire blasting. It's a full-on aerial death trap. Sawyer and Sleeg coming hot to assist, playing the hero card. But wait, oh no! There are 3 more wyvern diving in like they just heard about 50% off at TGI Fridays. This is looking bad, folks. Someone call the gods, we might need a refund on Destiny. What's this? Taryn makes his move. This absolute unit of a dragon swings that warhammer of a tail and, oh, would you look at that? Absolutely erases one of the wyvern from existence. We're talking you no longer have a skull levels of obliteration here, folks. And that's a one-way ticket to the ground, buddy. We head over to Riddick out here stabbing this wyvern like it owes him money, but it's just not letting go. The other 2 wyvern change course at the last second and go straight for Sleeg. It's happening, people. Green fire. We've got wyvern fire. And Sawyer's in trouble. A wyvern takes a big old chomp, and folks, that is not a nibble. Sawyer's leg is gone. He's barely hanging on, and the clock is ticking. Wyvern said, I'll take this to go, thanks. Took Sawyer's leg like a chicken drumstick at a tailgate party. Violet sees it all unfold and she decides to send it. Tear's warning, ignored. Her safety, not a priority. She slices through her belt strap and, wait a damn minute. Violet Sorngale's done playing it safe. She is moving. She takes a sprinting start, and yes, you heard it right, leaps from her dragon mid-flight, and boom, lands on Aetrim's back. Riddick can't believe it. I can't believe it. Her mother can't believe it. Even the gods just spit out their drinks. Unbelievable precision. That's got to be 10 out of 10 landing, folks. Riddick is stunned, but there's no time to celebrate. She shoves a crossbow into his hands and keeps moving. That's right, Violet is running across the actual head of a shrieking wyvern, dodging spikes and teeth like it's a goddamn obstacle course. Sleeg is fighting tooth and claw to protect Sawyer, but they're still losing ground. Riddick takes a shot, wyvern down. That's a confirmed kill, folks. But oh, this isn't over. Sawyer's grip is failing. He's going to fall. Violet shouts the one thing you never say to a dragon. Let me help him. Sleeg actually listens, and boom! Violet launches herself again, this time onto Sleeg's back. We are witnessing next-level parkour dragon riding, folks. Violet slides into a full-speed tackle, slams into Sawyer, and the two go flying down Sleeg's back. They are out of time, no more dragon to cling to, and oh my God! Say it with me, folks. She jumped off the dragon again! This is it. This is where the story ends. A tragic fall from the sky. Heroes lost, and what's that in the sky? A dark shadow? A monster? No. It's Taryn, baby, the goat, swooping in like the world's most terrifying safety net. At the absolute last second, his massive claw snatches them out of the free fall. Folks, I have never seen a save like this before. An absolute queen move. Folks, I don't know about you. I think we just witnessed one of the greatest aerial stunts in history. Someone give Violet a medal, someone get Sawyer a healer, and someone tell Taryn to take a deep breath before his blood pressure explodes.
That was amazing.
All right, guys, I'm back. Did I miss anything in the game? No, you gotta be kidding me.
What a horrible time for a bathroom break.
Gosh. All right. Taryn drops him on the ground. Violet shouts for him to go help Sigale. Marin, with her griffin and Cat, come to take Sawyer to a healer just as a Venom shows up. Cat starts to run back to Violet as a second Venom appears, knocking back Cat. Vi roasts the first one, but the second one shatters her conduit with his power when Andarna steps out of the shadows. Andarna torches him with her fire, and while he's still roasting, bites his head off and spits it on the ground. Holy... Xaden shows up. They get orders to go back to the Vale, where Melgren and party are waiting for them specifically. On their way, Jasenia catches up to Violet. She found a little discrepancy between Lyra and Warwick's journals, a difference in wording for the number. Lyra's says 7, and Jasenia is sure of it. 7 dragons, not 6. Violet has a thought here on who/what the 7th is, but we don't get to know just yet. Pissing me off, man. They meet with Melgren, who is trying to send all the riders to protect the Vale, but with the numbers they're facing, Violet tries to explain that protecting Brennan at the Wardstone, trying to get it up and running, is really their only solution and their best bet to save them. Her mom hesitantly agrees at Melgren's behest, and then our big bad sage shows up, not attacking right away, but apparently waiting for Xaden. They get into position as the sage makes his way slowly to the field where Xaden is waiting. Vi is torn between saving the wards here or at Erasia, but ultimately chooses Basakaeth. She sprints to the chamber, starts to imbue. As she does, Andarna shows up, and Vi tells her what she suspected, that Andarna is the 7th breed of dragon, which Andarna confirms, which is why no dragon or the elders could fight her right of benefaction when she decided to take a rider, and get to threshing and all that. Vi gives her power over to the Wardstone when Brennan, Lilith, and Sloane come in. Mom kicks Vi off the Wardstone, and Brennan starts to mend her because she was basically burning out. Then Lilith talks Sloane into siphoning her power, Lilith's power, to imbue the stone, which she does, and Lilith dies as Andarna and Six from the opening light up the Wardstone. They leave the chamber to cries of victory. Vi goes to find Xaden, who is being really standoffish at first, looking down into the ravine where he killed the sage. As he finally looks at Violet, she is startled to look upon red rings emanating from his eyes. Our final chapter finds Xaden's perspective, fighting the sage, actually a maven, one of the generals, before he decides to channel against Sigale's will. But then he wakes up. Later that night, he sneaks out to visit Jack Barlow in a holding cell, demanding the answer for a cure. And Jack's response is, yeah, there is none. Guess we're brothers now. What?
Womp womp.
Yeah, that's a lot of trauma.
Woo!
All right.
Good times. That was good.
Well, I hope you're all got a drink and everybody's ready to go because there's a lot of jaw flexing here to come.
Are there really?
Yes.
Nice.
There's a bajillion.
Few
So
drinks.
make sure you got it all filled up and ready to go. And let's jump into chapter 56.
Oh,
Okie
I'm
dokie.
ready.
Oh, there it is.
Uh-huh.
All right. Well, I'll start us off. I had a quote from Violet. This is sort of her narration saying, "My stomach twists and I lower my voice into my best Zayden impression. Ask me." I shake my head. That was me impersonating Violet, impersonating Zayden. "Yet the real first question I pose, you duck out the door like a coward." And Zayden says, "Well, it never occurred to me that you'd ask about a second signet." And I just went, well, maybe you shouldn't offer to answer any question if you aren't prepared to answer any question. That seems kind of obvious.
Valid point.
Yep.
Yep.
Especially because he so proud of her all the time for figuring everything out. But he
Yeah.
didn't think
Yeah.
she'd figure this out. Like,
Yeah. It was like, oh, I'm an open book. Oh, well, not that chapter, though. That's...
And then we get the first of many jaw flexes.
Whoop, whoop.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So Violet and crew go out to the edge of the wards to see if it's going to stop the wyvern from coming through with the little wards they made in Erasia. And she says this point is a 4-hour flight from Erasia for average dragons, if such a creature exists. And I was like, does that mean they're all above average? Or are there just basic dragons? Average dragons? Or they don't exist? I don't
I bet
know.
it's just none of them willing to admit that they're the average one. They seem to have an ego on them.
So they can all fly a 4-hour flight faster. Whenever you're talking about it, you would say 4 hours, but everyone would understand you mean because all of our dragons are above average. Really, that's like 3.5. I don't know. But my other note here was pep talk dragon.
Yes.
That would be the average dragon.
Yeah. What was the other one? Snoring dragon?
Snoring dragon. For context here, when we went on our trip to Nashville, we played Cards Against Fourth Wing. You should totally play it because it's funny. But there were some random cards, and one just said,
Interesting.
Pep Talk Dragon. That's all it said.
Yeah.
Pep
That was
Talk
one of the-
Dragon.
Yep.
So we decided that's Best Guy as mascot. Just
Yep.
a dude walking around in a big old dragon costume.
Pep Talk Dragon.
May your souls may commend it to Malik.
That's his catchphrase.
Oh,
That's the pep talk.
no. That's the Pep
God.
Talk.
He's the guy that comes around the podium as soon as they do the death roll, like, do-do-do-do-do. Time to cheer up, everyone.
Oh my gosh. And then we get another jaw flex already, so drink up.
All right.
Ah. During that same conversation, Violet in her head is like, oh shit, what if he's like a cat? What if he's been manipulating my emotions this whole time? I swallow the bile, inching its way up my throat. And I just wrote, he doesn't need powers to manipulate you, and your entire relationship is proof of that, baby girl.
Yep. You're right.
There's a reason they call it manipulation, am I right, ladies?
How long you been sitting on that one?
I don't know.
That's nice. I like that.
Well, she thinks that, and immediately, and she thinks it in her head. There's no quotes around it in the book. But then he says out loud, I would never do something like that. And then she says, I didn't mean to say that out loud. And I was like, because you didn't say it out loud.
Italics.
Yeah, I know. Italics. You didn't say it out loud. He can tell. He can read your thoughts.
I feel like this just proves like his stubbornness with their whole communication thing because I'm assuming he's like doing something like this on purpose in hopes that she'll like figure it out. But it's one of those things where he's doing something without telling her directly. And it's just like, dude, just like, just be upfront about it.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I know you're doing your set. You're like using your signet right now.
Yeah.
And you want her to just be like,
He just doesn't want to say it out loud, is really all
like,
it is.
just
Yeah.
tell her, like,
Yeah.
literally stop being an idiot.
It's also like, later on, he's like, well, it's not like reading thoughts. It's more like intentions. And I'm like, I mean, that's pretty much, at the level you're doing it, pretty much reading thoughts. Like, later on, he's like, oh, yeah, she's thinking about approaching your mom and asking her about your
Right.
engagement with her daughter. I'm like, dude, that's reading thoughts. You're not just like, I want to have lunch today. That's an intention. Or like, I don't like you. But like, it's so specific, the fact that
Yeah.
he could respond to something in her head.
Well, and it's been a couple years at this point since it manifested. So, like, who knows how much it's grown, and maybe he's still trying to convince himself it's, like, not that bad.
Yeah.
That's a good point. She doesn't pick up on whatever it is. She doesn't get it quite yet. And so it says he was standing there with, like, a tense set of his jaw. And I wasn't sure if that counts as his jaw flexing.
I'll drink to that.
Okay, sounds great. So, to the tense set of his jaw.
Is that sort of like the cut of your jib?
What?
The tense set of your jaw.
What?
Stop talking about my jib. This is right before he admits what his second signet is, but talks about Taryn. It says Taryn shifts, angling his body towards the gale instead of beside her. And then here Taryn growls at her, and like it says a rush of bitterness and betrayal floods the bond because he didn't know. And like when I read this, my comment was just like, oh shoot, this is kind of a big deal, especially with their bond. So
Yeah, and this kind of surprised me. I don't remember this from my first read, but because of the reread, I thought Taryn did know, because in Fourth Wing in chapter 19, Xaden says, we need to know what happened in that room. And then he like glares back at Taryn, and Taryn says, do not dare to try and read me, human, or you'll regret it. And on a reread, I thought he meant don't use your signet on me, but maybe he just meant like don't try to like talk to me through the bond or something, because this is also the first time Sigale uses the bond to talk to Violet. So I don't know if he was like just referencing the bond and didn't want Xaden to talk to him directly, but he said do not dare to try and read me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that is
definitely
weird.
thought it was that he could read his mind or like intentions or whatever, and I had highlighted it on this reread as well.
Yeah.
because even if he tried to like talk to Taryn, it's not like he could have like seen what happened, even if he was trying to talk
Or
to
well,
him mind to mind.
or maybe it's like how
Like how else would he would have seen what happened?
well, you know how they can kind of like reach for each other, quote unquote, in the bond and like feel whatever the other person's feeling, like how she can like feel
Right.
Taryn's emotions and stuff. Maybe that's what he meant, but like
Yeah,
that still
maybe.
doesn't give him any information.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's odd.
It is interesting.
I will say, from Violet's perspective, having that huge betrayal at the end of Fourth Wing and her like being so upset at Taryn and Andorna for keeping the secret of like Brennan and even Xaden and like all of his going abouts, and then Taryn being like, you know, I won't hide things from you anymore, like whatever. So
Yeah.
I appreciated, at least for Violet's sake, that he also didn't know and he wasn't
Yeah.
keeping this ginormous secret from her again. I mean, for Violet, that's good. But I was also
That's a good point.
surprised that he didn't know from Sigale.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then we get sort of the Twilight moment with Violet. It should be like, you're an intrinsic. And Xaden says, I'm a type of intrinsic.
A Twilight moment.
This is the mind of an intrinsic Bella.
Yeah.
Say it out loud.
That's great.
Anyway, yeah, she says, you're an intrinsic. Xaden says, I'm a type of intrinsic. I can read intentions. And I just wrote, so you could have just said, yes, but just intentions, not actual thought, instead of like pedantically correcting her. Because what he actually is like, well, I'm a type of intrinsic. He's not quite right. You're an
Whoa,
intrinsic.
whoa,
A type of intrinsic is an intrinsic. So get over yourself. Also claiming this as my called it moment for him. This manipulative scalp tingler.
Yeah, John started
Tingle
Tingle Watch really early,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
you both were picking up on all of them. So good job. Who knew the words tingle would be used so many times in this podcast?
Yeah.
Tingle Watch. Whoop, whoop.
I mean, and then it just like stopped in book 2.
But he says he stopped trying to do it once they got together at a certain point. So maybe it's
Also
that.
true.
Oh damn.
Yeah.
Did he though? Did he?
I don't know. Maybe.
Cool and Pa.
What?
Only a very few people will get that. Very, very
Are we
few.
just
not one
saying
of
weird words right now?
So that's a very niche fan base.
Goldfish
So
shoe.
that
Am I right?
tingle related joke.
Wow.
My only note here, once we learned what his second signet was, I was basically just kind of like, you know, I think I'm okay with this. I didn't have like a super strong reaction of like, oh my God, he's intrinsic. I was just kind of like, yeah, okay, sure. But yeah, we'll get into a little bit more of like that thought a little bit later.
I will say, from like having read Fourth Wing and then all of us sitting around and speculating for 20,000 years, Connor and I have listed out a couple times that there was some foreshadowing, and I feel like having reread Fourth Wing a couple times, we were like, all over the place with potentially what his second signet was, or even if he had a second signet, because that was never really confirmed until this book either. And so this was like a huge like validation, like, yes, we totally all got it right as a collective fandom, like kind of moment. And that was really fun being on the internet during that time. But
so true. Yes. Yeah, so there's 2 moments from Iron Flame. Back in chapter 22, Xaden says Varish will use this opportunity to kill you for the embarrassment Taryn put him and Solus through. And Violet's like, you can't possibly know that. And Xaden says, his intentions are pretty fucking clear. Trust me.
yep.
His sarcastic thumbs up.
And then in chapter 43, Xaden says, watch your back. I didn't have time to question every flyer about their intentions.
And she was like, haha, so cute. He would go and ask every single person, whatever. And I was like, girl.
What are your intentions? What are your intentions?
I know exactly. What are your intentions with my girlfriend? And then in Fourth Wing, chapter 19, Violet was saying to herself, I'm alive, I'm alive, I'm alive. And Xaden responds out loud, yes, you're alive. And she says, oh, I didn't realize I said that out loud. So Rebecca gave us 2 of those moments. Rebecca. And then also in Fourth Wing, chapter 35, this is after she finds out about Dane's betrayal in the war games and stuff. And Xaden says, did he touch you like this? And shows how he like cups her face. And Violet says, yes, but he always touches me like that. And I would know if he reads my memories. And he goes, no, Violence, trust me, you wouldn't.
I always thought that was sort of silly to say from someone who does not know how that power works. Like, I would know. Like, no, you have no reason to believe that you would.
Yeah.
But
back in the actual chapter, his jaw flexes again. My goodness, Xaden. Those jaw muscles. You're really working them today.
I know this guy's mewing 24/7.
That's right.
They have to. So you said the fan base got his signet collectively. What was like the runner-up that people were thinking?
There was a lot of like, did you read the audiobook or did you read the physical book? Was it in italicized? Did it have quotation marks? Like all of these back and forths, because like people who just did audio took that conversation as, she did say it out loud.
Yeah.
As where if you read the physical one, you saw that there wasn't quotes around when she said something like, I'm alive, I'm alive, I'm alive. And then was it italics? Did she accidentally say it down the bond early before they knew that bond was a thing? But I feel like it mostly went around him being an intrinsic of some sort.
Yeah, because that was a signet that we knew it existed. We knew it was dangerous to have based off the information that we got in Fourth Wing.
That is like a strong reason why I was sure we'd see it in one of the main characters, because I was like, it's sort of one of those things where it's like, well, how are you going to make that a big thing in the lore and not have one of the main characters deal with it in one way or another?
Yeah.
Aside from Dane.
Yeah.
Well, and the fact that we already know he's like full of secrets and has all these hidden things and whatever. So of course he would have the one that needs to be hidden more than probably any other.
Do we know if Dane's read his memories before?
Read Xaden's?
Yeah. Would Dane know his second signet?
I think if Xaden had his signet at the point that Dane tried to, it would be very hard for Dane to get there. Because Xaden would probably realize that intention before.
Yeah, I guess.
Also, Xaden does not feel like a touchy person. So if someone came up to him, trying to grab his face, he'd be like, what are you doing?
I also feel like Xaden pre-Violet would have just killed him.
Possibly.
If somebody just figured it out, he would have somehow figured out a way to just kill the guy and get it out of his way.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Good point. This is when Ulysses, gets the correspondence or whatever. Melgren asked us to meet with him tomorrow. He requested whomever represents our movement, no more than 2 marked ones allowed, along with Violet and Mira Sorengel. Xaden basically says, you can say no. You should say no. And I was thinking here, Melgren has to assume that Xaden will probably be one of them, of the marked ones, to go.
Violet's
But I was just thinking, before I knew, I was just like, man, this can't be good. This just can't be good. And it wasn't as bad as I thought, but I thought it was going to be something a lot worse than what ended up happening at the meeting or whatever. But
Yep. That takes us to chapter 57. I only put this in here because this is something we discussed in the last episode. Taryn was trying to explain how dragons can only sense each other mind to mind when we allow it. And so we discussed that last time with how could Solus hide in the caves and Taryn not know he was there, and he came out and surprised Violet and stuff. So I'm guessing that's how. I don't know.
Surprise.
Yeah, surprise. And then I just like this line. I don't like it for them, but I liked this line where Taryn and Sigala are clearly not okay, and they're not even standing next to each other. And she just says, Mom and Dad are fighting, and everyone knows it. That's a really funny way to describe it.
We've all been there. I just want to point out what I think is a bit of conflicting information from Zayden. Shocker, I know. Violet says, did you ever use your signet to glean information to influence my feelings in any way? And Zayden replies, never, but I've always lacked a certain element of self-control when it comes to you, and our bond makes it way too easy for you to send your intentions without even realizing it. The confliction comes. Do you want to do your note before I go for it?
Oh, and then a muscle in his jaw pops here, so cheers again.
Yeah, I need a drink anyway. A few moments after he says that, maybe like 2 or 3 sentences between then, but a few moments later, Violet asks, do you still do it? And Zayden answers, no, I stopped the moment you were more to me than the general's daughter, the moment I realized the harm Dane had done and that I was no better than he was. So first of all, never might have been an exaggeration, because if you have to stop doing something, that means you did it. Also, after quick research, Violet's scalp tingled at least 5 times before she even ever bonded a dragon. So explain that her intentions being pushed through the bond, jackweed, is what I wrote.
Kyle, be nice.
Because he's saying, like, oh, our bond, like, it's so much easier to feel it through the bond, but, like, if her scalp was tingling, like, I think it was, like, 5 or 6 times before she bonded Taryn at all. I think one of the final times was, like, when she was in the forest with Andarna and she senses him, like, off in the trees. Pre-bond. So he's saying, oh, the bond made it easy, but I never intentionally did it, when, like, clearly he did.
Well, that was before their relationship, though.
The sentence is, did you ever use your signet to glean information to influence my feelings for you or feelings in any way? So it's not just in general. Whenever she's crossing the parapet, of course she's some rando person, and so he's going to do that. Or, you know, the first couple days or whatever. It's once they've gotten so far in a relationship, he stopped that. I feel like that's valid.
Yeah, but if you're looking at anyone's intentions without them knowing, it is in order to know how to act around them and to influence their actions. Otherwise, he wouldn't do it at all. If he didn't care to, he might have read her intentions and been like, oh, she hates me, or like, oh, I need to do this in order for her to not do this. If you have the information in your head, you will act on it, even if it is subconsciously. So the fact that he consciously made an effort to do it.
But that's what made him keep her alive.
No, the deal with her mom was made him keep her alive. I feel like he could have done that without reading her intentions.
It could also be, though, why he stayed away from her for so long. Because they had that kiss where he, even in this conversation, talks about how he, like, let it slip. He knew their intentions there. And then he, like, stays away from her for a very long time and tries to have Imogen or someone else, anyone else training her. And then finally is like, okay, none of these other people can do it. I'll do it. And so maybe it was him trying to, you know, realize he's having these feelings in this situation. And so he has to separate himself so he doesn't accidentally use that or something.
Yeah.
It strikes me as just, like, very selective with his words in order to, like, get by with half-truths, if that makes sense. Which, if they're being honest with each other, should not be allowed.
It's against the rules. Judge Kyle is in session.
But calling him a name isn't nice, Kyle.
Okay. He's a fictional character. I don't care.
I care that people are nice to him.
My comment here was just it's kind of doubling down, I feel like, on my previous comment about his, like, signet or whatever. But I wrote, like, I'm cool with Zayden after this. Like, we good. I believe that he hasn't used this in a nefarious way. That's the key part. Like, yes, maybe he's used it on before. Like, he's most definitely used it on her. Yeah. But in a poor way, or to influence her in a larger capacity, I guess. Like, yeah.
Well, because, like, even when they were in Samara, I think, when she was visiting him, he waited around for her to make any sort of choices. He didn't have any sort of conversations that would try to lead her one way or the other. He was very black and white, like, I am here for you whenever you want me. If you don't, then we will just be here platonically, kind of a thing. And just kind of waited around for her to make those choices and decisions. And he wasn't trying to be, like, sly with his words or any sort of thing like that. So
I can see, to credit him a little bit, is like he is sort of pushing her to be like, oh, you need to come to that decision yourself, or like, I want you to figure it out. I could see how knowing someone's intentions, it would be very easy to sway them one way or the other. So maybe the right path is to say like, I'm not going to comment on it because I know where you're at right now and I don't want to like push you one way or the other. So that's the like a little bit of credit there. I know we were all aggravated earlier on with him being like, oh my gosh, just be honest with her. Like, say something. You idiot. But that might be a good reason why he didn't.
Yep.
Well, yeah, and it would probably be hard to know what to say, what not to say, because, you know, you're influencing them one way or the other.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's probably better to just say nothing at all. And we took that as him being a bad communicator, which, I mean, it was. But like, for him, he's probably stuck in this weird position of... You know,
it's hard not to manipulate when you have
choice.
all of that info to you. Like, if you knew what everyone was thinking, it'd be really hard to not have like a biased push on the conversation.
Yeah.
But that's how he always got the whole room to listen to him, and he never lost a fight because like he's great at fighting because he knows exactly which way they're gonna go or what style they're gonna use to attack him or whatever else.
Yeah.
Do they retain their signets if you turn Venom or no? Because the signet is just attached to your dragon, right?
Guess we'll find out. Because you don't know that yet. Don't tell him, Connor.
What? I look like I was going to say
I'm not telling anything.
I was only going to say that'd be a good reason for the Venom to be after him, because they can already mimic fighting styles or whatever. But knowing someone's intentions in a fight.
If you'll remember in the last chapter, when he is sneaking past the guards, it mentions that it was like a lot easier for him, and it mentioned something about... It was like a very vague sentence.
Right, enhanced signet or whatever this is, something like that.
Yeah, or like what he was like, whatever that means or whatever.
Yeah. One of the pre-chap was about like them getting an enhanced ability of some sort.
Well, that was like their senses.
Senses. They had
not their signet necessarily.
Sense. Yeah.
But I could see it improving that because, like, if you have the literal entire earth of power to draw from, it probably would make your abilities a little easier to dip into.
Yeah, he says, the guard cracks a yawn and I slip by unnoticed thanks to the increase in my signet, ... or whatever this is.
That would be a solid reason for the Venom to want any intrinsic, really.
And his shadows, too.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and they clearly want him for something since they seem to be targeting him.
Yeah.
Or at least that one dude.
Anyway, we'll get there at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
All right. And then the muscle in his jaw ticks again. Cheers again.
Cheers. We're going to have to take a bathroom break at some point. A lot of drinking tonight.
So this was one of my first read notes from Iron Flame. This is when Melgren welcomes them to this meeting. And he's like, we have refreshments waiting if you'd care to. And Taryn cuts him off and goes, probably poisoned. And I was like, finally, someone with some common sense. Thank you, Taryn.
Yes.
Why would Melgren offer them refreshments?
That's got to be a lie, right? That's how I took it. You think they actually had like a whole little tea party set up for them or something?
There's no way.
I know. Well, during this conversation with Melgren, he says to Xaden, do you know the destruction that you've caused by dropping those wyvern on the outposts? The lengths we went to in order to keep this quiet? The civilians we had to... Then he cuts off. And it just makes me really worried for people, but like specifically Sawyer's family, because we don't know where Sawyer's family is. And we know that Sawyer's tried to like reach out to his family and probably tell him the truth. So who knows how they like took that or what they said around their town that could potentially get them killed. That's what I'm really worried about. But then Melgren even said... Dead. I know. It makes me so sad. I don't actually know, but I feel like I'm with you.
Get used to it.
Dang it. But Melgren continues on with, when you abandon the ship in the middle of a hurricane, you save those that you can within the dinghy, then cut off the hands of anyone else who tries to climb aboard so they don't pull you under. What a horrible outlook on life. What a motto for Navarre, because that's what they live by. Unfortunately.
I honestly had to like, it forced me to Google, is a dinghy safer than a ship in a hurricane? Because I was like, I don't know if that's, I don't think you're any better off.
That's fair.
And a little bit of extra thoughts on the whole intensic thing. This is as they're standing in front of Melgren and his crew. Vi says to Xaden, do me a favor, forget feeling guilty about reading my intentions and please read theirs. And I was like, whoa, hold on a minute. I was like, okay, but like she can no longer be mad at him moving forward now that she has asked him to do this.
Uh-huh.
I was like, wait a minute. And then, of course, Melgren says, in the battle I see, none of you are there. And he glances at Xaden. I was thinking, I hope he's not using some major manipulation of wordplay here. Like, he's referencing other people. Like, he doesn't see the assembly there, but he does see Xaden and Violet, or like something like that. Like, he's picking and choosing who he's like including in that. And then he also says, if you're not our allies, then you are our enemies. And I'm torn between them like refusing to help helpless civilians and also thinking that Melgren is like in cahoots with the Venom here, that this could be just a ploy to kind of like hand over Violet or Xaden to them. But I was thinking like the whole thing just stinks from the beginning. I was still on that thought process of why would you just let your writers go if you're eventually going to like need them anyway?
Yeah.
If he knew that battle was coming, like I guess we don't know the details of his signet, like how far in advance he can see the battles, I guess. But I mean, I know we ended up finding out that he was bluffing a little bit about the Samara thing because the grounds could be still protected anyway once the wards fell back to their like initial position or whatever. But I don't know. This was just, the whole thing was just kind of interesting to me.
Sus.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, and I just keep wanting Melgren to be on the page. Like, we hear about him so much, and there's all this speculation about him and his dragon. I was really excited to have a meeting with him. We're going to learn something, and I don't feel like we got
Also true.
actually anything about him as a person more than we already know. Like,
True.
so,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I can't tell if that means he's not going to be as big of a deal as we thought, or if he's going to be a bigger deal than we think because he hasn't been on page much yet, but he's like set up to be a big deal. I don't know.
I feel like he would be set up to be a little more.
Yeah.
I thought that
more so.
of her mom.
He'd be a little bit more than what he is now, but I feel like his dragon is probably a bigger deal than he is in the overall story.
Yeah.
Being head of the den or whatever, the most powerful one on the continent, I think they said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and like maybe Coda could survive after Melgren and then bond to somebody else or something cool.
Ooh.
One of the good guys.
Nice.
He has been bonded to Melgren for so long at this point. I guess I would be surprised if he did that, but I don't know. But if he is like the biggest and the most powerful, then maybe not.
Yeah. Taryn survived one, so surely he could if he's more powerful than... I will say there should be like moments in Violet's life where she's just, assaulted with her own emotions. It might be nice to just ask Xaden, like, can you just tell me what I'm feeling right now? Because I've got a lot going on. And he'd be like, yeah, you're kind of angry. It's like, okay, I'll hone in on that one.
What do I want for dinner, Xaden?
What a power.
For real.
I think, honestly, I was thinking of how convenient that would be with kids. Just like every time, little
What do
lies
you
they
want?
tell you or try to hide things. I'm like, okay, well, whatever. Choose which ones I'm going to let you get away with.
That's funny. I mean, and all the times that he's made her try to figure it out instead of just giving her the answer because he knew she would get there or whatever, or she was on the right path or something like that.
Yep.
Okay, so Melgren walks away from this conversation, and it's just Mama Sorengale there, and she brings, is it Lyra's journal? Mm-hmm. Sweet. And she gives them Lyra's...
Sorry.
Dang it, Connor.
I always
And
forget.
she gives them Lyra's journal, and she tells them to go check out their wyvern. And so they head over to the wyvern, and they find out that there's some runes inside. And then one like creepily opens its eyes right in that moment. Freaky, cool scene. She killed it way too fast, in my humble opinion. It would have been a cool battle, just the two sisters and a wyvern, but whatever. So,
Okay.
right, that would have been a sweet battle.
Yeah,
Like,
I respect
That's
that.
what
I
me
like
was
that.
thinking. Oh my god.
Thank you. Anyways, but Violet says to herself, is this why the wyvern have suddenly reappeared? Did someone give the venom runes? And it made me think, like, yeah, where have the wyvern been? Xaden didn't even know what a wyvern was, but he's known what venom is when they were at Resin. And so it seems to be that they haven't been around. Like, it's a relatively new concept for the wyvern. Like, it was obviously in her Tales of the Baron book thing,
Right.
but it wasn't like common knowledge amongst even Brennan or any of them and they have no information on them. They have this like book from Takaris, is that his name?
Yeah.
They have that, but it's just about the venom. It's not about the wyvern. Seems like there's no info on them at all.
Yeah.
So maybe they have to use these runes. And this goes into my whole, like, are they hatched or are they made? And I don't even know.
Jack does say later that, like, oh, there's more of us here than you think because we're all sneaking around. Your wards don't stop all of us. And someone may have found Violet's book and be like, oh, that's what we should be doing. And then report it back.
Well, there was a conversation, I think I guess it would have been the beginning of Iron Flame where Violet was talking to Brennan and she says, like, do you know where they're making them or something? And he's like, do you mean hatching? And she's like, no, making.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
because we had a whole conversation about that too.
Yeah, but we don't know where their actual bodies come from.
Yeah, I would think that everyone would naturally assume there's a hatching ground and everything like a dragon. But I really do think they're just made somehow. Maybe it's with a rune or whatever, but like...
Yeah. They
maybe
could
even
be
in the
eggs
moment
that are made too. Like, just they make an egg and then it hatches out of them or whatever.
Yeah.
Instead of... I don't know why, since they draw all their power from the earth, I picture them like mud pieing stuff together and then be like, magic, it's a wyvern now.
Magic. Maybe.
Yeah. All right. Well, that goes into chapter 58. Violet goes to meet Xaden on the sparring mat, and his jaw flexes 2 separate times at the beginning of their conversation.
Whoa.
So double drinkies.
Oh, wow, Kyle. Impressive.
2 cups
hard
at
to
once. Yeah. Look at you.
You know, I'm talented.
And then, of course, she asks Xaden about his mom, and Xaden answers, she left when I was young. Their marriage contract said an heir had to survive to the age of 10, and then she was free to go, which is what she did. I haven't seen or heard from her since. And I was just like, super weird, dude. I bet she's a maven now. Or something, bro. We're going to see her in book 3.
In book 3?
Yeah.
Colin shot.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Why not?
Family reunion.
Especially now that he's just turned. I mean, that would make sense if, like...
Oh,
She'll be like, my boy!
She is a maven.
My boy!
Maybe that's why the
Literally.
sage is after him or whatever. For his mom.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
Booyah.
Yeah, mommy's looking for you.
Your mommy's looking for you. You better come home.
What is happening?
Now every time the sage or somebody has a line, I'm just gonna read it like that.
Yeah. Don't spoil your appetite. She's got dinner cooking.
So this is another first read note when they're talking on the sparring mat. Xaden says, well, it helps that the writer of record was thought to be a great uncle, not my grandfather, talking about like his second signet. So like people wouldn't suspect that he has a second signet because of that. And on my first read, I wrote, is it possible that this is true for the other girl who like bonded her great aunt's dragon or something? Because he also just made a comment like, unless there's a full intrinsic around. And that kept making me nervous because I think this was like the second time somebody said that, where they're like, well, unless there's a full intrinsic around, we're fine. I'm like, why would you say that? Like,
And then that girl over there is just like,
yeah, she's freaking out. This just made me think, like, is it possible that other people could be hiding something like this?
1000%.
Oh,
Because,
Yeah, I
like, and how did that happen if, like, he knows it's his grandfather that was bonded to Sigale, but that's not what was recorded, you know?
Yeah, it's recorded that it's his uncle.
Yeah.
Right.
I feel like if it was known that, oh, if you had a family member who bonded a dragon and you bond the same one, it's likely for that to happen. And if I bonded a dragon and they were like, oh, yeah, your great uncle was with me, I'd be like, why would you bond me? I'm going to be an intrinsic and they're going to kill me.
Apparently, uncle and aunt,
true.
it's fine. It's just not your direct line, I guess.
Yeah.
Climb.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
What? Go on.
I was going to ask if I could say something now because you finished Iron Flame, but it was, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think it was an interview from before Onyx Storm.
No,
I think it might have been
it was
an interview
after.
from after. Yeah.
Yep.
So, never mind.
Yep.
Fine.
Talk about it later, I guess.
Yep.
All right.
Shoot.
And then in battle brief here, Devera turns toward the giant map of the continent, lifts her hand. Red flags begin moving in an undeniable pattern of pulling away from known strongholds and gathering to the east. And I was just like, dude, this is so sweet. This is totally like Harry Potter-esque here, where it's just got like the flags moving around on the map and like all the different pieces that represent other things. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You guys think
Yeah.
Devera's single since There's just a ton of red flags every time she lifts her hand.
Oh my gosh.
Wow, she really raised some red flags.
Wow. It's a lot of red
She's got
flags
all
with
the
that
red
one.
flags.
Oh, I was lost in another world picturing Basgiath going against Quidditch with Hogwarts just on their dragons and obliterating them. Just like eating the wizards whole. Oh
my
yeah,
God.
they win.
And then while they're in battle brief, Violet gets the idea that the battle's not actually going to be at Samara, it's going to be at Basgiath. And so she's just like, starts packing her bag immediately, and the whole entire squad ends up following her out. And Kat says, is anyone going to tell us why we're just walked out of battle brief? Rhiannon replies, Violet has that look in her eyes. And so they just stay with her. And I'm like, I just love their blind loyalty for her. And they just know like, oh, she's got something. Let's all go. Like, Violet has not said a single word. She just like looks over her shoulder as they start following and keeps walking down the hallway. Like, she doesn't talk to them at all. I appreciated that.
I mean,
Good
if
friends.
this college has taught them anything, it's blindly following.
Oh my gosh. I had this highlighted too, but I thought it was funny that it says, Violet has a look in her eyes. Rhiannon explains, keeping up at my side. And then Rhea doesn't say anything else. That was her whole explanation. She has a look in her eyes. All just like
That's a good point.
on
checks out.
board. It's funny.
They all still follow. Good friends.
They do. They are great friends.
I mean,
I'm
if
in
my
school.
friend left class, I'm down. You don't have to give me a reason.
I mean, yeah, good point.
It's just, where are we going? I don't know. Not here.
The whole group is going. I'm going.
Yeah, she had a look in her eye. I gotta go.
Did that many a times in college myself. Usually it was just a Taco Bell.
This is another first read note rolling into chapter 59 as Violet is flying into Basgiath and like looking around and reflecting, and she thinks it's where I studied, where I climbed trees with Dane. And I was like, girl, did you literally ever do anything else with Dane? Like, why is that the only thing that's mentioned when you talk about your like, childhood friendship with him?
She even just said it like a couple chapters ago when
I
she and
know.
Dane were like trying to figure out the journal or whatever.
It's not the boy I climbed trees with.
Their
Yeah.
biggest memory is her breaking her arm doing it too. I was like, why was it one of the most dangerous things you could have been doing for
And him having to reset it or whatever they talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, like,
the
it's
good
funny.
old days.
We get so many mentions of that, and then we find out like once in passing that they used to go to these fancy parties and meet the king. So like they know the king, and also they
Yeah.
climb trees together a lot.
Yeah.
It's like one of those low budget movies where it has a flashback, but it's just to other scenes in the movie. It's not to other actual things that would have happened in their life.
The single tree on a hill.
The same flashback over and over.
Exactly.
Yeah, it took like 5 minutes to film, but they just keep reusing it.
Yes.
It's half the movie. That's good. Okay, so they decide they're going to go look at the Wardstone, and Lilith is taking them all there. And so they're at this like secret door to the wards, like that leads them to the path to the Wardstone. I think it's Dane who actually ends up pushing like a button, and the secret door opens, and Xaden says
Secret
it's just
tunnel.
like yes. And Xaden says secret tunnel. That's funny. And Xaden says it's just like the one at the archives. And now I need to know what other secret doors are there. Like if I had seen one in a specific building, I would have probably just like, cool, the archives has cool hidden things. But now there's one just in another part of the actual college building or wherever. I would be touching every random stone and going around and seeing how many other secrets there are, because there has to be others. There's got to be other
Yeah.
places.
Gotta be.
and-
If that was your biggest curiosity, I guess we know what signet you'd be getting. It's just
Yeah.
secret door finding.
I'd be able
Who's
to
that
find
girl
you
running
posted.
around the college smacking the walls?
just rubbing on the walls. Going
Just trying to
around.
play it off. Yeah, that one's solid. My dad was an engineer. That one's good. This one's good.
This one sounds hollow. Oh, yes, and they start to make their way down the path. Her mom goes, see, it's Gart. Mom's words die, and we see them the same moment she does. Two bodies in black uniforms lie on the ground, pools of their blood slowly expanding toward each other. Their eyes open, but they're glazed and vacant, freshly dead. And I wrote here, I was like, Jack Barlow with Nolan's help? Because I was still a little sus of Nolan here as well,
you're
but I was right
kinda
about Jack.
right. You're
Yeah.
I
kind
was
of
right about Jack.
Nolan,
Oh, yeah, with Nolan, yeah, I mean-
kind of had him, yeah.
Freaking idiot, dude.
I just thought it was a horrible use of the words "mom's word die." Like You're literally looking at two dead guards. You could have used a different word. Mom's words cut off. Mom stops talking abruptly. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Mom, shut the up. I mean, there's a little bit before it said she, talk about Bade, stalks forward, her talons clicking on the floor, which I like that description, by the way. As she maneuvers around the stone, Jack Barlow in his seat on Bade's back, the smile he gives twists my stomach. Right on time, Soaring Gale. And I wrote in my note, like, dang, I was hoping for more out of Jack. I was kind of like hoping for the turnaround premise, but...
For good guy Jack.
Good
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, even just neutral Jack would have been fine.
Yep.
Neutral.
I saw your note here and I was like, does this mean you were surprised by something?
I saw that and I wrote, does disappointed count as surprise?
I'm not surprised. I'm just disappointed.
Yeah, total. I'm not mad, Jack. I'm just disappointed.
But in an episode where every other chapter you called something that was going to
Yeah.
happen, I do
This feels
appreciate
like a
that
win.
you... Yes, exactly.
There's things that get by, for sure. I think I've been trying to call more about Xaden and Violet than I have anything else.
Things that get by, like the subplot, not the main plot.
Yeah, well, and honestly, I was
Side stories.
I was kind of aggravated about it too because like almost feels like this is the second book that Jack was built up to be something like a big thing that would be a huge fight and then easily killed again. I'm like, dude, can we stop resurrecting this guy just to have him be like a B villain?
He won't freaking
Yeah.
die.
For real.
And he's still not dead.
He's just in prison.
Yeah.
yeah.
Freaking Jack Barlow. Well, while they're having this moment and Bade tries to like blast fire at them and Riddick past all of them and throws his arms up and yells, "Get down!" And Violet says she glimpses a wall of ice rising before all of them. Nothing prepares me for the sight of his burned hands blistering and bleeding afterwards, like of him trying to keep it up. And I just love seeing our little goofy boy being a total badass and just having that moment when usually he's just so goofy and on the side and just like literally saved everyone. Huge shout out to Riddick.
B.A. boy.
Yes.
Ba boy.
Everybody loves a boy. Speaking of being totally badass, if you want your shelf to smell as fierce as your favorite writers, Mood Reader Candles has you covered. Our friend Katie at Mood Reader Candles recently dropped a Fourth Wing inspired collection of amazing 100% soy wax candles. These are incredible candles for every book lover. We even have a limited edition Between Pages and Friends candle for Mood Reader that smells like a fresh bag of peach rings in honor of John's favorite reading snack. It's called Go Off Queen, and it's the perfect scent for spring and summer. Go and check out moodreadercandles.com. Grab your favorites before they're gone, and of course, we got you with the promo code. Use our code FRIENDS10 for 10% off all regular priced items, excluding bundles. So head over to moodreadercandles.com to get yours today.
Okay, so that takes us into chapter 60. Violet is just stating the obvious fact that Barlow just killed his own dragon and took down the wardstone. I think it's Xaden who ends up saying, like, you're going to also die or you're going to be following that path of your dragon. Jack says, I'm not. They have us thinking we're the inferior species. But did you see how easily I controlled her? How easily the energy she bonded us is replaced? And this is just wild, because we do get that description of Bade's eyes not being golden but being like more opaque, like she was being controlled. And then for him to just kill her, and then the fact that he doesn't die, that I guess he channels enough energy and now he is a person who has survived his dragon dying, which I don't know that, at least that we know of that happening. So it's just wild.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't even know why I'm thinking this. I thought we read this somewhere. Aren't all Venom writers?
No. In fact, it said a lot of them were Griffin writers or tried to be Griffin writers, but fell.
That's right.
And then because they didn't get that power and they were upset or whatever, they ended up channeling that kind of a thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Pardon me? Griffin Flyers?
Oh, so sorry. But they weren't even those either because they didn't bond.
Yeah.
True.
Okay.
So I had some first read notes from this part. It was really just me shouting in all caps, so I didn't include them all in here. But the first one was where it does say Bade lowers her head and I get a single glimpse of her eyes, opaque instead of golden. And my note was, aren't the wyvern's eyes opaque? Is Jack a fucking venom? And then when we get to this part, I wrote, how is he still wielding if he just killed Bade? What the fuck? Literally
Those are accurate reactions.
screaming.
Those are so valid. Yeah.
I don't know if it matters if his dragon's dead, but did we ever learn what his signet was? Okay.
I don't know.
I couldn't remember.
I don't know either.
Google
I don't
it.
remember him doing anything extraordinary that was non-venin. Like how
Well, he
later
was
she
like-
said he was like pushing power into her or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, so she said even when they fought on the mat, he had been channeling.
Yeah. But as a venin because his eyes were red, she said
Right,
at the
yeah.
time. So I'm not sure if he ever manifested or anything. And again, may not even matter. If the dragon's dead, that's where the signet came from, so.
I don't.
Does not say he has a signet that we know of.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wow, interesting.
Okay.
I was thinking if we saw something from like War Games or something.
Right. You think he's still allergic to oranges as a venin?
Good question.
Sure.
For sure. For sure.
Sure.
He like pulls power from the earth too close to an orange orchard. He's like, oh no, that's orange magic.
Orange magic.
Too citrusy.
But no, I don't think he has one that we
Yeah,
know
I don't
of.
see anything. Oh,
Okay.
Oops.
I didn't think so. I didn't think we at least had seen one.
Yeah.
Yet anyway, but
and he hadn't. I don't know. I'm confused about how that works because if your signet does come from your dragon, he would have started doing his venin channeling like before he maybe would have even manifested a signet.
yeah, no, he definitely did because he had red eyes really early on, like when he was on the mat with Violet. So
And that
I
was
still think
That
that's
was
after
before
threshing,
threshing.
isn't it?
Was it before or after?
it was before, I think. I can't remember, but it was definitely before anyone had a signet in their year. He was on
yeah,
the
like
mat
he
with her.
yeah, I mean, and he's still bonded with the dragon, so I'm assuming that by
Yeah.
threshing he hadn't done it yet because I feel like
Yeah,
they maybe would have known. Can dragons tell?
maybe she didn't care.
Maybe.
Yeah.
She is orange.
Yeah, they're
funny
friends.
that-
Interesting. Huh. All right. Well, as they're in the chamber and like Jack is attacking them, all this stuff, it says Nolan sees Jack in the ward zone chamber and yells, "Jack, don't do this. You're better than this. You can choose." And I was first of all, I was annoyed that he was even there in the first place. It's like he apparently can't mend because he's like so weak or whatever.
Yeah.
But I was thinking like, I get that he was most likely forced to mend Jack, but like, come on, like he could have flubbed it. I was just like super suspicious of him. Thoughts were just like rolling forward and spiraling out of control. I was like, what if he's like actually a maven in disguise or something? Like he's one of the infiltrators. I just thought that was kind of interesting. But then kind of going along, Jack's eyes have been bloodshot for so long, and she's trying to recall when it happened. She said before the fall. It had to have been before I wielded that first time. So I'm assuming that Kyle was right that he did channel to save himself, at least maybe a little bit,
Yeah.
or at least in some way.
Yeah, I would think so.
He was probably still pretty injured or something. And then I was thinking when they ran into Nolan and Nolan said it's hard work mending a soul, he like literally really did mean the venin kind and not just resurrecting someone who was like, quote unquote
Yeah.
dead.
Yeah.
Which it said because it had to have been before when she wielded like that. Because again, like they were on the mats before then, and it said something about like didn't Jack even say like I wanted to kill her so bad, I wanted like to draw the power or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like Violet was one of the last to manifest her signet. So I don't know, he could have maybe manifested one before he started channeling, but I feel like with the timeline, it probably made sense that he would have gone through threshing and bonded Bade and then maybe started channeling sometime before he manifested a signet.
Yeah, or maybe he never manifested a signet because he was like, well, I already channeled, so I don't need it.
I've been trying to Google it. I think it happened after threshing, is what it says.
Oh,
That's all I know.
yeah.
Yeah.
That would make sense because he'd be pretty PO'd about the whole Andarna situation and
That's what I was just going to say
Him
too.
getting
running
not as
away
a
like
strong.
a coward and her getting
Yep.
2 dragons and
Yep. That's just what I was
showing up
thinking.
everyone.
And maybe seeing other people start to manifest and he hadn't yet or something like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just nothing going his way.
Yeah.
Wait, when was it that he passed with that one girl and said, I knew it would work?
Oh, with Caroline
Yeah.
when she bonded Glean, right?
Yeah.
There's a dragon named Glane and one named Glean, and I think one of them is Imogens, and the other one is the one Caroline Ashton bonded, and I can't remember. I think it was Glean, because I think Glane is Imogens.
And now I'm wondering if
Did he do something?
If he like either that or maybe she channeled to try to take control of that dragon.
Oh.
Since it was unbonded and like forced it to bond to her or something.
Ew.
Boy, that's interesting.
If that's possible, that's really scary.
Well,
all right. Interesting thoughts here. All right. We can move on if we'd like. But
all right.
While they're in this whole middle space between they think Jack might be dying, but he's like channeling so he doesn't die, he ends up saying to them, we, being the Venom, might not be at full strength and capable of wielding greater magic under your protections, but make no mistakes, we are already among you, and now we're free. And we had already debated, are there Venom just around or something? But I think this confirms, obviously, that there are Venom here, probably at the college. Something Connor and I talked about, I feel like it's free to say now. Varish was the worst, and he was very pro Jack Barlow and Jack Barlow getting alive and Nolan. And when Dane ends up killing Varish, he actually uses an alloy hilted dagger. Totally like just happens to have the one that I think Violet had on the table or something like that. And he ends up using that to stab Varish. And so I didn't pick up that obviously until this reread, because I wouldn't have thought that my first time. And I had texted Connor about it, like, do you think that maybe that's what that was and that's the reason he died? So I kind of think Varish was a Venom.
Also an orange
But
dragon.
that is true.
So maybe the orange ones just do not care.
Yeah.
Power is power.
Well, Brennan has an orange dragon,
I know.
so that's terrifying.
Is Imogen's orange? I think Imogen's is orange.
oh, that would be spicy twist, dude.
What?
That would be so spicy. Like Brennan was a Venom.
Yeah.
Brennan the Venom.
Brennan Venom.
But he like fixes the ward stone.
Yeah.
Sure he
Yeah,
does.
could be playing the long game.
True. He did fix it right.
Imogen does have an orange dagger tail. Glane.
No,
Is Riddick's orange or no?
no, Riddick's is brown.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right.
I don't know of anybody else
Okay.
off the top of my head, though.
And then while they're having this conversation, Dane is like trying to sneak around to try to get him with one of the daggers. Jack ends up grabbing his arm, and Violet's trying to get Xaden to like stop it. And she says multiple times, like, Xaden. And it says only when Dane screams in pain does Xaden finally take a step and slam the hilt of his dagger against Jack's temple, knocking him unconscious. And then she runs to Dane as he's like stumbling backwards. He rips off his flight jacket, tugs up the sleeve, and shows his arm that has a matching set of gray handprints burned into his skin in the same place where Jack had grabbed him. And she's like, "Are you all right?" And notices that his skin is crinkling, which is a disgusting description of what his skin is doing there. But my first question here is, why did Xaden sit there and wait?
I was gonna say, I thought it was because Dane grabbed Jack's face and he knew what he was doing. Like he was gathering memories. And he was giving him time to do as much as he could before. That's what I thought. Because I'm pretty sure he jumped onto Jack and like he grabbed his face.
Well, and he would know
Yeah.
Dane's intentions if that's what Dane was
Yeah.
intending to do.
I thought, he was
Oh,
just
yeah.
like giving him as much time as he could before he had to pull him off.
Okay, see, I'm okay with that. I thought
Yeah.
Xaden was just kind of being mean to Dane.
Not the time.
But yeah, so now I guess Dane has this weird gray mark on him, and later they said they couldn't mend it or whatever, so I don't know. I guess my concern is that it's going to end up like growing or something, and his whole body's going to crinkle away or something like that.
He's got the virus.
Yeah, exactly.
Crinkle away.
He's going to crinkle away.
Like a bag of chips.
It's like a,
Bag of chips in the wind.
No.
little shrinky dink Dane.
Eating Dane. Oh my goodness.
Shrink-a-dink.
And then they're going back to fight. Violet reminds everyone, if you take down a Venom, you will kill the wyvern they created. And again, just confused on if they're hatched or made or whatever's going on. I'm going with that they're made. I'm convinced. I don't think they're hatched. I don't even think they make an egg.
Yep.
I just think they're
I think
made.
I'm going with
but-
made and then hatched. That's my take on it. What came first, the egg or the wyvern?
Right.
I guess the
Age-old
world will never
question.
know.
I have seen some speculation that they created the wyvern by like taking something existing like a lizard or something and like turning it into a wyvern. But if that were the case, I mean, I guess this could also be true for however they create them, but like why specifically and only wyvern? That would be my question.
Yeah.
If they're not like hatched.
And how there's like specifically like the blue fire and the green fire.
Yeah.
And then in this episode or this chapter chunk, we learn about the red fire ones.
Uh-huh.
Like
Neon red.
I assumed that was
cherry
a different
red.
rune.
Cherry red, that's it, yeah.
Yeah. A different rune, something that makes them
maybe.
different.
I thought it was just like different levels
That's
of
interesting.
venom
Good
making
call
them.
there.
Yeah, that could be.
Because I know the ones that they found the ones that came through the wards, they said they were complex runes.
Mm-hmm.
So if those are already complex, like
Could it
that's been another one of my thoughts is like, how did they learn how to do that? Well, I guess they have, the sages or whatever, like their teachers, but
Yeah.
Well, and like all the flyers seem to be better at runes.
Yeah.
So like if
that's what I was going to say.
other
Yeah.
people who tried to bond and didn't and then turned
Yeah.
them in.
maybe
Yep.
they somehow get their hands on a dragon egg and then corrupt it, and whatever dragon color it would have been is what color its fire is.
Oh, that's kind
I feel like that's too many dragons. Like thinking there's a 500 something wyvern.
You just get a couple of dragons, start a breeding program. It's
Breeding program.
get on a schedule.
Yeah.
They've had 600 years, guys.
I mean, yep.
the college is gonna get theirs. Like, honestly, we're impressed. You did a pretty good job there.
Well, and it makes me think about, do we know her name? Liam's mom, Mama Mari. I don't know if we know her first name, but it makes me think about how she specifically could weave that very complex rune
Yeah.
that, led to the rebellion relics or whatever. So like, it makes me think of that because then, what if generals or mavens or whatever can create a specific type of wyvern? Like if the cherry red ones
Yeah.
are the ones that, only the mavens can weave or imbue or whatever they do.
Yeah, like there's just the different power levels of the ranks or whatever.
We just know her as Colonel Mari.
Colonel Mari.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good enough.
Mama
for me.
Mari.
I like that one. Mama Mari.
A mommy in uniform, you say.
Kyle.
After they've left the chamber, is this when they have like another battle brief?
Yep.
Pretty much.
And they see like the
Right.
grid over the map. Kaori puts the little...
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah.
this
Which
is their back
I
in.
kind of had a question about because Kaori can only put things he's seen. So has he seen this map with a giant grid on top of it?
Why not? He could have had a map, drew a
Could've
grid
made it.
on it. He could combine images too, because like he would always like circle stuff and whatever. He's seen circles before, so
I don't know. They're pretty rare.
But they're in battle brief, and they learn that the infantry is going to be looking for the lures around the college, and then the squads are broken up into protecting different grid sectors or whatever around the college. Second squad gets both Zayden and Violet, and Riddick's like, "We get both of you?" He says, "Maybe we have a shot of lasting an hour." And Sawyer says, "My money's on 2. And then Imogen chimes in. She says, "Both of you shut up before I knock your heads together. Anything less than 4 hours, and it is unacceptable." And I was like, hell yeah, baby. Living for this energy. Like, absolutely. You can count on her to come in and be like, "Guys, shut up. Like, we're way better than this. Like, get it together."
this kind of gave me like Three Stooges energy. Just the three of them
For real.
go
Yeah.
bonking their heads. Boink, you don'ts.
I was just glad Imogen was back. I feel like she's been gone for a while. Or like
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
not. I feel like at the beginning of this book,
page.
she was always with her like running and they were building this like really cute friendship. And then we go to Arisha and she's just kind of back to side character. I love Imogen.
And then my next note here, I think this is when Violet brings up her initial suggestion to protect the grid or protect that area or whatever. And her mom says, "Absolutely not. Your opinion, as noted as it is wrong." And I was like, oh, like you thought she was wrong about the ward stone? How'd that work out for you? Because she was right that you guys were in danger, so shut up. Shut your mouth.
Yeah.
So heading into chapter 61, they have this moment where Andarna was like blending in with the shadows, basically. Taryn Chuff's benefit of being a black dragon. We're born for the night. My brain just immediately went to the show Community, where Abed is dressed as Batman and he does this whole
Such a
ridiculous
great
monologue.
reference.
Yeah.
So I put the part in here where he's like, I'm out in the night, staying vigilant. I just put a gif of him putting on his chapstick and his Batman costume. It's a whole great monologue, though. So if you haven't seen it, it's a Halloween episode.
It's really good.
It's so good. Yeah.
Watch the whole show, please.
Yeah, just watch all of it.
And report back.
Yes. It's your homework for this week before our next episode.
Watch the entirety
it's not that hard.
of the
Only 4
show.
seasons, 4 or 5. No,
Yeah.
6, I guess. 6
6 in a
seasons in a
movie.
movie.
6 seasons and soon to be a movie.
Hopefully.
My next comment here is this image that I got in my head of this, but it's when they're kind of getting ready for the battle. Lilith starts to change the weather a little bit. It says, another gust of warm wind blows and the stars wink out above us as dark clouds billow from over the mountains, charging the air with an energy that calls to my own. I was like, oh, baby. Like, this was just sweet to think about. Like, you know, you see those like fast motion or like fast forward graphics sometimes in movies where the clouds are swirling and they get dark really quick. Like, that's what I was picturing. It's pretty sweet.
With that, like, I love seeing them get to use their signets together a little bit. Like when Violet tells her mom to move the cloud over the wyvern so that she can strike there. That kind of stuff I live for. It's so cool. I want more scenes of signets working together like that. And then shortly after that, Violet pulls lightning from the sky so quickly that I no longer feel like I direct the storm. I am the storm. My note was just all caps, go Violet. I love seeing her signet develop even more. I'm excited to, like, if we're in book 2, if there's some more development to come, I'm like excited for more of that because this is freaking sweet.
Mm-hmm. My note for that was ka-chow.
Classic.
I know. But kind of with both of these things, but mostly with Jon's, where it's talking about her mom like helping her out and stuff with the storm coming, and when it said it's her way of imbuing her favorite weapon, me. I was like, oh, that's so cute. So cute for her and her mom. But while she's doing all her lightning wielding and all the things, it says energy tears through me, and instead of flaring my palms, I concentrate on the intent of my fingers, just like Felix had taught me, drawing them downward with the strike, directing it to the target as though I am the composer and the lightning is my orchestra. I love that description. That is so cool.
I missed that.
Big fan. Really, really neat. Technically, it would be like the director of the thing, not the composer.
Just one.
But, but that's okay. It was still a really cool moment.
So cool.
And then we get the really cool writing immediately following that of this whole, like, we've got 10 seconds, maybe. And then we get this really cool countdown moment where it was like 10, this happens. 9, this happens. And with that idea of like, there's signets working together where it's like in one of the seconds she notices that Riddick's sword is broken, and then the next seconds Rhiannon takes it like with her signet and throws it over to Sawyer, who like fixes it with his meta allergies, and then he throws it back to her, and then that whole thing, just a really cool moment for the Iron Squad.
Yes.
Go Squad.
Yep.
Ugh.
We were talking about that today too.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, it's so
Freaking
sick.
sweet.
In that like 10th second at the end, Taryn says, you're beginning to think, and Violet says, like Brennan, and then Sigil says, like Taryn. And I was like, hell yeah. Yes. But this whole thing where they're like passing the blade back and forth to fix it, this is one of those things when I say that like my brain just glazes over stuff in a battle scene. I literally didn't realize that's what was happening until Jon explained it to me. He was like, oh yeah, that part was so cool. I don't know why. That's details. That's not even really a detail. That's like a main event of the battle, but it just went right over my head.
I feel like she walks through it fairly.
Pretty clear.
I mean, it's like a 10-step process.
I know. I knew that they were like,
it out for you.
It's like bullet points.
I knew they were passing it. It just didn't connect in my brain that was the reason that she fixed it and sent it. I don't know. It just, anyway. So I'm glad we have these chats and talk about it.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's what we're here for. The next line that I highlighted was where someone's talking about the venom and says, you're the one he wants. But in my music-y brain, I read, you're the one that he wants. You're the one he wants. Honey. You're the one that he wants. And so I know the show is coming out. And so maybe this is where the musical episode will be in this scene. It's just the big musical episode.
And maybe instead of like blue robes, the sage comes out in like full suit, black
leather
Sequins.
jacket. Yeah.
Yeah, the skin tight leather.
Best Gaiath dropout.
Throws the smoke, the cigarette on the ground.
Is Basgaiath dropout about Jack then? I guess. I mean, he's still there, but
he would sing the
Dragon
beauty
School dropout.
Oh, and then a green blur comes at us from the right, and we both look as Rhiannon jumps from Fearg to Tern, landing in front of my saddle in a crouch. And I just wrote, oh God, no. I immediately saw death on the doorstep here. Like, I thought for sure that was going to happen here, but they did well.
yeah, and Rebecca doesn't help because the pre-chat blurb from 62, like that's the end of the chapter, and then you start 62, and it says the easiest way to defeat a dragon is to kill its rider. And I was like, Rebecca, please.
Yep.
I cannot.
Yep.
She knew what she was doing.
But yeah, so they take care of business. They kill the venom.
Yeah, they do.
And Rhys says, "You're welcome. Fix your saddle. I'll retrieve the dagger from the ground." She stands, then gives me a flash of a smile before jumping from Tern's shoulder. And I was just like, yes, Rhys, slay you damn queen. This was sick, bro. This was so sweet. I love, and we finally got it. I think I said, it may have been a theory from the end of the first book where I said something about seeing other people's signets. I just wanted to see like really like some sweet moments. And we kind of get that with Riddick with his like ice wall. And then we get it here from Rhiannon, and the little other like moments that we get in the battle between some of them and stuff is... We got it here in this battle a little bit.
I remember what you're talking about because you said you were excited to see some of the other side characters like Rhiannon and Riddick become absolute menaces in battle or something like that.
That's right.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, he's going to love this.
Unfortunately, they don't all come out unscathed because Sawyer does lose his leg below his knee, which is a big hit. But last episode, Kyle was trying to make some predictions. Something was going to happen, throwing out random ideas, and he goes, Sawyer's going to break his leg or something. And Connor and I...
No.
Connor, what did you say? What did you say?
It was just Sawyer was going off to flirt with Jacinia, and I was like, hey, break a leg, buddy, like jokingly. And Jon said something too, and you guys like died laughing, and I was like,
we both had to mute the microphone, and we were both cackling.
I texted Jon after. I was like, they laughed way too hard at whatever we said there. Because I said something, and then he said something to the effect of, like, I think it was just like, hey, just don't die or something. So I'm like, oh, jeez. Like,
Kyle
but now I know why.
Yeah, he came in the room after that, and he was like, does something happen with Sawyer's leg? Because that you guys were laughing too much. And I tried.
And she walked away and started brushing her hair, going like, no. And I was like, so yes.
No, it wasn't obvious.
That's literally what happened.
That's so funny.
You couldn't even look at me.
This is dangerous because with Throne of Glass, when it was Jon and I who had already read it, I feel like we did a good job of like not looking at each other as much. I don't know. But that was just so unexpected for me that I started laughing, and then I looked at you and you were laughing, and then we made like eye contact, and it just made it so much worse because I was really going to try not to react.
Yeah. You guys broke that time, and I was like, something that someone just said. I was kind of worried that he would die because I'm pretty sure Jon said like, "Oh, don't die."
Yeah,
I can't remember.
I just was so caught off guard because it was such an offhand. It wasn't even meant to be a prediction. It just was.
Yeah, it wasn't. You could see my reaction to it though. I'm pretty sure I was like, "What is going on?" Poor Sawyer though.
Poor Sawyer for real.
Oh my gosh. First he was a repeat, and then his parents still don't know, and like they haven't shown up yet, and now he's lost his leg. He's just like he's going through it.
Mm-hmm. Poor Sawyer.
So in this sequence with Sawyer, Violet starts in italics saying, "You can't have him. I tell Malik, you took Liam. You may not have Sawyer." And I just wrote, here she goes, talking to the gods directly again. Just makes me nervous. I don't know what's happening, but at least she's not promising like temple time for this, I guess. She's just like, no.
My note here was the amount of time that Rebecca brings up Liam and the emotional damage that she has caused me is honestly just rude. And this isn't even the first time she does it for the rest of the book. She just keeps bringing him up. and it's not okay. She talked about him earlier too with Ree,
Yep.
whenever Ree jumped on her dragon and stuff. So,
Salt in the wounds.
yep, for real. But I think it was the flyers that came out, like Kat and Marin, and they were like, we'll take him to the healers. Violet says, oh yeah, the healers, because mending isn't an option, not without his leg. So he doesn't have that. So he will now officially not be mended and have... Because I think that was my first thought too, was just like, oh, okay, they can just mend his leg, no big deal. That's super unfortunate. And then while they're on the ground, all of a sudden a venin literally comes out, and then ends up being 2 different venin that are on the ground with them. And one of them says, but you, talking to Violet, I'm under orders not to kill, so let's not make this difficult. And my note here was, what do they want from her? I mean, obviously she's the main character, so like we know she's special, but like, what's the reason why other than that she's, I would like to know that. And then we get this cool moment from Kat where Kat ends up like manipulating the venin's emotions and stuff. And she says that she's heightening the woman's greed, spinning her out of her own emotions.
Yeah.
And Violet says, I have to admit, it's a pretty badass ability when she's not using it on me. And I thought it was the whole time, even when she was using it on Violet, but specifically seeing it in this aspect, it makes it cooler. But
Well, that might
Yeah.
be because she wasn't using it on you.
Well,
Just
that's a
like Violet said.
Is that taking us to 63?
Yes, it is.
Yep.
Hey-oh, taking us to 63. And I just wrote, F yeah, what an opener for this chapter. The Dark Wielder turns, but he isn't fast enough. And Darna lands directly in front of him, then opens her mouth and breathes fire down upon him, roasting the Dark Wielder before she snaps her jaws down and rips his head straight off his body. Oh my goodness. Incredible.
Frickin' sweet.
I don't know what it is, but I love a good decapitation. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yep. Hell yeah, brother.
Like, I got jazzed up for something in Crescent City.
Oh, yep.
I don't know what it is, man. I like it. Didn't it also happen with somebody else in this book, in this series?
If it did, it probably went right over my head. So
Maybe I'm thinking of something else. Anyway,
Pun
But
intended.
this scene with Andarna is one that like I feel like lives rent free in my head. Like I'm always
Oh,
picturing
man.
her like
So awesome.
coming around with her cool scales and like sneaking around and then jumping on him and the whole thing.
yep.
Like Randall from Monsters Inc.
Yes, just like that. Honestly, that's exactly
Squinty eyes and all.
it. Give her a pair of glasses.
So before we find out that it's Andarna, is the 7th. So it says 7 dragons is impossible. There are only 6 dens: black, blue, green, orange, brown, and red. Initially, I was like trying to figure it out. I was like an elder maybe, or I wasn't sure if the elders were like the head of each den or something. This is Violet trying to like go through her thoughts. I stumble, catching myself with a hand along the stone wall, while my brain trips down the path that makes the only sense, even if that path is ludicrous. But holy shit.
Yeah,
And
that's
then, me and Khan chatted a little bit about this today. Apparently, I said that I thought there might be a 7th elder in the Vale. That's like the top rung. It was like maybe the one that all other dragons kind of like came from. So that was another thought, even though we find out that it was Andarna all along. But
Yeah. I think you and I talked about that in like the last, maybe not the last episode, but a few episodes back, where we were trying to theorize where the 7th one was.
yeah,
And you and I both were saying like, oh, maybe it's like the mother of all dragons.
Yeah,
or like
that's right.
some, I don't know, thing. But yeah, I remember that.
it is a cool thought, though, because they do. I mean, we don't really know anything about what that timeline is like. We hardly know anything about the dragons, but we do get little snippets of like they're descended from the Creed-Huane line or like whatever. There's like there's lineage that Rebecca knows that we don't. So I like that thought.
Well, and Warwick's journal said 6 dragons and the 1 combined. And so knowing now that her iridescent, all the different kind of colors
Yeah.
around her and stuff. So it kind of does, I don't know, it's kind of cool. It makes me wonder if that means more about her, not just her scales. Like if she's going to have some extra cool power of some combined energy or
And she's got the
something.
camo going on already. I don't think other dragons can do that.
Yeah.
so I was gonna say I did call the camo
Yep.
Yep.
you did.
Yes. You thought it would be on
I mean,
Violet,
I was
though.
on Violet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe
Still
that
could
could
be.
still happen. But
Yeah.
I feel like that would be pretty sweet, though. That'd be a pretty
be
sweet
sweet.
signet.
Especially because if she was on Andarna and they did it together and like could go.
Oh, that's cool.
Freaking sweet.
Like maybe not like completely invisible type of thing, but
Right.
like kind of like how Andarna does it with her scales. Pretty sweet.
Yeah.
That would be so
Pretty
cool.
sweet
I don't
signet.
think we've heard of a signet like that.
Yeah.
That would be a really cool thing to see.
I'd love to
Or
see a
not
scene
see.
with Andarna in the sky or something and camouflaging where people just say like didn't even see her approach in the sky until
Yeah.
she's literally right in front of you or already breathing fire or something. Be really
that'd
cool.
be cool. That'd be sweet. They have another interaction with Melgren. He says something to Xaden along the lines of like, well, you might be leading a revolution, but I'm, leading the whole army in a war or something like that. And Violet says like, well, hey, at least he called it a revolution and not a rebellion. And I just find that really interesting that he would say that. I just question Melgren's loyalties so much because he seems like he's supposed to be such a bad guy. So then if he's so committed to that, I would think he would just like naturally, subconsciously call it a rebellion. But he says it, whether it's in his subconscious, like he's angry and he's just saying something emotional and that's what comes out, or if he's being intentional and does call it a revolution. Is he a bad guy? Because you also think Lilith is, and then at the end of it you're like,
Yeah. I don't know, poking fun at it too, like where he'd be like, you're leading your little revolution, but I have all the whole whatever. Like his tone could change the meaning of it too. I feel like if his tone was different, she'd call him out on it, but
Yeah.
Or he's already seen the outcome, and if that's the distinction that they're
That's true,
making
too.
in this book, that maybe he knows that they're going to be successful. I still think he sucks, though.
I don't know that he's seen it, only because unless something happens to all the marked ones that they're not around, I don't know how he would see
Oh, yeah, I guess that's true.
the outcome. But this chapter ends with Xaden saying they're not going to attack, not yet, because they're still waiting. And Melgren's like, what the heck are they waiting for? And he just uses bigger language than that. And his hand tightens around Violet's and says, me, and all the dramatics. What does that mean? Why is Violet supposed to be brought back alive? Why is Xaden the one that they're waiting for? And also, why does Xaden
Why does
know
he
that?
know? Yeah, that's my question. Why does he know?
he said that he was having the same nightmares as Violet at one point, didn't he? Where they were like saying like, oh, we were both having the same dream where they're talking to us and
Cute.
ooh, our dreams match. So maybe that he's just saying that I don't know, if he's seeing it as like a foretelling of the future and being like, oh yeah, they're putting these dreams in my head or whatever, because that's sort of how Violet felt too.
Yeah, I guess that's true. It seems kind of arrogant to just be that's all
Yeah.
you're basing it off of. Obviously, they're waiting for me. I had a dream about it.
Who isn't waiting for me?
Chapter 64, it starts with the pre-chap.
Pre-chap.
With a letter from Liam to Sloane about how much she's just going to love Violet. And it's just so heartbreakingly beautiful and so extremely rude of Rebecca to put it in here. And it just makes me so sad. I feel like I've never cried over a fictional character more than I have Liam, just because he always gets brought up in the most heartbreaking emotional ways.
Yeah. Sort of in the same vein as your last note from 63, where Xaden's like, me. He points out the sage and he tells Violet he thought we'd be at Samara, figured we'd do the honorable thing and answer Melgren's call. And Vi says, how do you know that? And he says, do us both a favor and don't ask. Which pissed me off on my
Womp
first
womp.
and second read, apparently, because my first read note says, excuse me, in all caps.
Yep. One step forward, two steps back all the time.
All the time. Frickin' Xaden.
Yeah, I don't know. I also had this highlighted, but I don't have any thoughts or theories.
Yeah.
I want to think it's because it's some bigger reason than him just not sharing it. Maybe last time it's because he read the dude's intentions or something. Or,
Oh,
I don't know. Because they met at Ressin.
yeah.
Maybe he knows the intentions of the author, and he's like, Violet, it's too early to reveal that in this story. So don't ask me.
Yeah. He can read Rebecca Yarros' intentions for his own story. But also, he flies off on all these missions from,
Oh.
specifically in the second part of this book, whenever he's at Orisha and he's not just like at Samara doing whatever
Yeah, true.
he's supposed to be doing as a lieutenant. And so who's to say while he's out there he hasn't had more run-ins with the sage or some
Yeah.
other he's obviously had other run-ins with Venin, because like Garrick brings it up that one time, you know, like, don't forget to bring up that time you took down 2 Venin or whatever it was, and it was kind of haha funny. But like,
or he had to find all those wyvern bodies to drop off.
Yeah, to find all those wyvern bodies to drop off. Absolutely. So who knows? I do think it's funny while this is all happening and they're having this big conversation. They just keep turning around to check where the sage is. And he's just still coming down slowly. And they keep having this conversation, keep turning their head. And she at one point says it's the theatrically slow descent of the sage on his wyvern. And I just think it is extremely random to have as like a plot point, I guess, or like a moment. Yeah.
Descending down the grand staircase.
Talk amongst yourselves. I'm coming.
I'll be done in a minute.
I'm in no rush.
And I just think it's so funny. Or it's like, is the sage letting him, like, Xaden finish these conversations and whatever? And then, I don't know, like, was there a reason behind it? Or, yeah, was he just being some smug?
What? Who is this diva?
Yeah. After this conversation, Xaden goes off to assumedly fight the sage, general person. Violet goes back to the Wordstone. She's trying to get Andarna to come down. And Andarna says, I'm not fond of pits, and was going to continue the conversation. But Violet's like, no, come down here now. Like, I need you right now. I just feel like that's like a really random sentence to say. And it makes me wonder if there's a story there, because we don't know so much about Andarna, and we know she's been around for however long. Is this supposed to be some weird foreshadowing? Like, we know that she has some weird fear, and then some sort of trauma or something's going to happen to her.
Well, probably fell in the pit.
I knew someone was going to bring that up, and Connor's sitting there waiting for it.
I wasn't.
Okay.
I was going to say, I thought this was just her being like her little snarky teenage self. Like, she looked down and was like, I'm not fond of pits. Like, I don't want to go down there.
Okay, it could be that.
That was kind of how I read it.
I don't know. She hasn't been like her snarky self in any of this ending stuff, so I guess
She kind of has, where she was like not really listening and be like, I'll be where I'm needed. Like, I'm not really gonna answer you or say that I'm following your directions, but just like, you know.
Yeah. I still took that as just her, like, I feel like she's hit a point where I feel like she was knowing better or something. Like, she knew that who she was. She would end up needing to not be hiding somewhere else. Like, she would need it at the wards or wherever it was. And Darna has obviously known that she's this 7th breed the whole time.
Yeah.
So, anyways, speaking of that, this is whenever she does have that conversation with Violet, and Andarna, sharing that she is the 7th breed, said, I should have listened when you said you were the head of your own den. That's why no one could fight you for your right of benefaction last year, or why the Empyrean allowed a juvenile to bond. So I know we had discussed that in 4th Wing about, like, why would she be allowed to bond and all of the things. And then I didn't pick up until this reread that the right of benefaction, like those specific words, the right of benefaction, had been brought up a few times. The first even being in that conversation we talked about earlier where Taryn was like, don't read me or whatever. It was like right after Violet had used Andarna's power for the first time. And Taryn was like, this is why Feathertails don't bond. I should have fought harder against your right of benefaction. And I had highlighted that and I was like, what the heck does that mean? Like, whatever. So I don't know. It's all making sense now. It's all coming together. But I thought this next part was really, really cute where Violet says, so your scales aren't really black. And Darna says, but he is. And I so badly want to be just like him. And I just thought that was cute because she gives Taryn so much crap and so much sass and attitude. But she really does love and respect him and want to be just like him. And that's just adorable.
It kind of makes me wonder what her actual color would be if she wasn't trying to make it that way. Because I took that as like, I look black because I'm trying to be like him all the time. Yeah. So like, what would it be if she was just, would it be more like a pearlescent?
Yeah.
Doesn't it say that they can choose their color?
No, their tail.
Oh, choose their tail. That's right.
And when they hatch.
Yeah.
That's
she
right.
seems to have chosen to be like Taryn since she kind of reflects, because there's like a time where she's reflecting the green grass. There's also a time in here where she's like, the sun must have gotten in my eyes because for a second I thought, and and Darna was gone and it was like as blue as the sky or something like that.
Yeah, like I was gonna say, even when she looks like a boulder and then jumps off of the mountain. And, but yeah, speaking of choosing when they can hatch. My next note was, I waited 650 years to hatch. Waited until your 18th summer, when I heard our elders talk of the weakling daughter of their general, the girl forecasted to become head of the scribes, and I knew. You would have the mind of a scribe and the heart of a writer. You would be mine. You're as unique as I am. We want the same things. And I wrote, she wants Xaden too? but on a more serious note... I mean, it does answer the questions we had a few episodes ago about, like, hatchings, choosing when to hatch when they were talking about the one that hatched and made the new hatching ground. And also we were talking about how aware they were of the outside world. So, like, clearly very aware of what's happening in the outside world. Whether it's them actually hearing it or just maybe having that mental connection to all dragons while they're in the egg that they can feed off of.
Yeah.
But...
He definitely thought that and, like, didn't mention, because obviously we didn't know anything about Andarna yet. But in that episode, we talked about if those dragons decided to hatch. And I mean, very clearly they decided to hatch once they moved to a different hatching ground outside the Vale or were part of the rebellion instead of waiting while they were in the Vale. So, yeah.
It makes it interesting because, like, I feel like if everyone knew that, they would totally rethink how old their dragons are. Because, like, the fact that she said, I waited 650 years.
Yeah.
I was like, well, are you even really a juvenile, like, with your mind at that point? Like, how does that work? But I don't know. My next note was just Violet saying to her, you aren't a black dragon or any of the 6 we know. You're a 7th breed. And I just wrote, so her pearlescent, iridescent, effervescent, whatever scales are a different breed after all. Not just an adolescent thing, and I was maybe kind of right about the 7th being a dragon we hadn't know of, and I'll take kind of right.
Yep. And she says here, too, like, that she's going to be able to help with the wards and, like, powering them, and she says specifically that is why she was left behind. At least that's what I can remember. It has been centuries. First of all, she could hear a lot in her her little egg. Like, she could hear a lot of conversations going on about why she was left to all this stuff about Violet. So that's just a whole interesting thing. But also, where are these other dragons like her? Why did they leave? Why would they leave her behind? Wasn't it 600 years ago that the Venom showed up?
600, I think, was the Great War, and then 400 was when the history was erased.
Yeah.
Got it.
So her egg was there 50 years before the war.
Yeah. And yeah, so that means they would have left then too. I didn't know if it was like that, like with the Venom, or maybe when humans started to bond with dragons, but that would have been before the wards went up. So that still would have been around that 600, right?
Around the first 6.
Maybe her kind left because, like, they were the main group of dragons to disagree with how things were being done.
But still, to leave one behind, they have to care a little bit for the wards. Like, if they left her only for that, they have to care a little bit. But also, how sad to be, like, left behind. I feel bad for Andarna.
Yeah. To just chill in an egg for centuries.
Yeah.
And she doesn't have, like, an elder.
Which also sucks because her, like, wing isn't working 100% correctly. So it's like she doesn't have... I mean, obviously, Taryn and Sigale and the actual elders of the Empyrean or whatever who's helping her out, but she doesn't have someone from her own kind, I guess.
Yeah.
Her den. Poor little Andarna.
Yeah. Which I kind of wonder... I mean, I'm sure we'll find out, like, what her kind is known for. Like, are they all known for that sort of camouflage ability? How they had personality types for every other kind of dragon, I would wonder. Since they said, like, oh, your dad was researching feather tails or whatever. I wonder if he had any notes about this specific kind. But then he wouldn't have been alive in that area when any of them were there, so who knows?
Yeah, I was wondering if... Because of that part where she says, like, she was hearing people talk of the weakling daughter of their general, the girl forecasted to become the head of the scribes. And I think Violet says, like, you didn't know I would become a writer or something. And she's like, and here we are. Like that. I mean, Violet didn't know she was going to become a writer until like 6 months before that actually happened.
Yeah.
But that made me think, like, to them saying that Papa Sorengale was doing research on feather tails and, like, They also say in the first book, like, no human has ever been to the Vale, which made me think, like, okay, somebody's got to go to the Vale, right? You know?
Right.
So I didn't know if, like, maybe he had already been there when he was doing whatever research he was doing, and that was how, I don't know, if she could, like, overhear stuff. Maybe she would have overheard something a little more specific, or I don't know. I guess unless he was also planning to have Lilith send her to the Writer's Quadrant after training her to be a scribe her whole life. I don't know that that's something they would have been on
like
in
that
on
was
together.
the whole plan. Yeah.
That early.
Because Lilith and Mira's dragon probably would have known that at one point she was going to the Writer's Quadrant. So if the dragons talked about that sort of thing,
That's
maybe
true.
word got around. I don't think Brennan's would have known, maybe.
But Violet was
Yeah.
it's already 2. It's like it happened well before she
Right.
knew she was going to be a writer.
Yeah, but if the thought is in Lilith's mind, even maybe because like Taryn knows what
Oh, yeah.
Violet's thinking sometimes, so maybe
Yeah.
the dragon just knew.
And Lilith says, I love you enough for you to be disappointed in me or something like that and still do
Yeah.
whatever. So maybe
Yeah.
she still did it for her or something. I don't know.
Well, and speaking of Lilith doing things for her children, one of the last things she says to them is, "You're everything we dreamed you would be, all 3 of you, and I'll get to see him soon," talking about their dad. And I just wrote, R.I.P. Mommy Sorengale. Also, I called it.
That you did.
And I'm annoyed that this made me cry. I didn't cry at this on my first read, but I did on this read. So I'm on the cry counter this week.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
I think you're one higher than me now.
I think I am.
For the first time,
Wow.
you're winning the cry counter.
I like how you're saying, wow, you were sitting next to me watching me cry.
Oh, yeah. That was this part.
That was this part. That was today. That was.
I remember that it was today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Surprisingly, I didn't cry during this part. Bawled like a baby girl the first time. So I think I steeled myself, like I was mentally prepared so that it didn't happen this time. But
Yeah, put your shields up.
yeah, had to put my shields up.
So on my first read, I just was really convinced that Violet's dad was still alive and he was actually going to be the sage who showed up in the battle or something. I don't know. I think it was after Iron Flame, though, in an interview that Rebecca, like, she was like, no, like, he's dead. Like, people kept asking about Violet's dad and she's like, calm down. Although I still don't know that I trust anything she says because of some other things she said before. But yeah, so she has confirmed that Violet's dad is dead. But I went on my first read, thought that Lilith saying, I'll get to see him soon was like some kind of sneaky foreshadowing on Rebecca's part or something. Like that was just her being cruel because he's not actually dead or so. I don't know. So I was kind of freaking out about that. I was a little too preoccupied to cry about it on my first read.
Yeah, I just felt really horrible for Mira specifically in this moment because the last interactions we saw with her and her mom were still like very tense and all of the things. And then we hear while Lilith is saying that last line that Kyle just kind of quoted that there's like, you know, boots running in the distance or they're getting louder. And it's like, wow, this whole conversation is happening and someone's running, someone's getting closer. And then literally as soon as Lilith says her last line, Mira walks in. And so Mira misses that moment to even just have one last something from her mom because she shows up literal seconds after she dies. And that's just really, really sad. All around, but specifically for Mira.
Yeah.
Very sad. Well, that takes us into chapter 65 with a pre-chap. Pre-chap.
Blurb.
Thank you, John. And it just goes with what we were just talking about with Lilith. It says, most generals dream of dying in service for their kingdom, but you know me better than that, my love. When I fall, it will be for one reason only, to protect our children. Recovered unsent correspondence by General Lilith Sorengale. So
Why was this unsent? That's what I want to know. It wasn't a letter from her to...
was writing to her husband after he died or something.
Or before she learned that he did, maybe.
I don't know.
like that. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's all.
Sad.
It's just that's my question.
We'll never know.
Guess not.
Kyle liked it. That's all that matters.
That's all that matters. Wow. Thanks, John. Violet says in her POV that the attack, this whole moment, this horde being this big, bodies dropping all over the kingdom, there is no chance that leadership can hide this. It's only a matter of hours before every Navarian citizen knows that they have been lied to. So this is a big turning point for the whole continent. Now the word is out. And then Violet gets to where Xaden is, and she's trying to have this conversation with him. And Xaden says that he snapped whatever tether, he being the sage, so he snapped whatever the tether the sage had on me, and I killed him. His body fell into the ravine, and now I keep watching the river like it's going to pop back up, even though I know he's miles downstream by now. So there's several things here. First of all, what was this tether that the sage had on Xaden? That this has been happening and he felt the need to snap it. Kyle. He's fishing. And then also, I thought you could only kill Venom by like the daggers or whatever. I guess he could have done that. To me, it sounds like
pushed him off.
And his body fell into the ravine. So it's not like he just pushed him into the ravine to die.
Snapped the tether and killed him. His body fell into the ravine. So, like, killed him, dead, body fell, is what I was picturing.
Okay. I kind of thought that's how he killed him, was like pushing him in. Something like that. I don't know. But either way, there's no body. According to Kyle's logic, that means there's no death. So.
Show me the body.
And then finally it ends with Violet being like, what else would I be afraid of? And he goes, me, he whispers, and a faint, almost indistinguishable red ring emanating from his gold-flecked onyx irises. You should be scared of me. Xaden is Venom.
What a freaking edgelord.
Kyle. And I'm mad too because Kyle kind of called that. So
he like really super called that.
I said someone would. But
then you said specifically Xaden.
Yeah, and you were like,
okay. I don't
first
remember
it would be Mom
Xaden.
for this reason, this reason, this reason. Could be Mira for this reason, this reason. And that leaves our Zaddy or whatever you said.
Zaddy dearest, I think.
Yeah.
I'm glad you guys keep track of what I say because sometimes I just say things.
Anyway, I was frustrated you called that, but anyways, Xaden's Venom now, so
yep,
changes
womp, womp.
Literally everything. And also sitting with that information from Iron Flame to Onyx Storm for that long was the literal worst.
How
and
long was
just this is the only
Over
info
a
we
year.
had for
Over a year.
It's awful. Yeah. You guys just get to pick up the next book. Monkeys.
Gotta hate sitting on Xaden for a year.
Okay, that takes us to the last chapter of the book, chapter 66. And this is Xaden's POV again for the last chapter. And he does go down and try to talk to Jack Barlow, who we also know is Venom. And Jack says, cures are for diseases. What we have is power. And that, dear Ryerson, isn't curable. It's enviable. So first of all, Jack is kind of the worst, but also there's no cure, according to him, and I guess
also
according
in
to
the
Nolan.
pre-chap.
So yeah, he also continues by saying, "And all this time you've been convincing everyone you're the hero, but now you'll be the villain, especially in her story." So maybe the whole time it's been leading up to Xaden being the big bad guy or something.
Maybe.
I don't want that to be the case. I want him to be the best and most amazing guy, but
I mean, you love enemies to lovers, so surely you'd love.
I do love a morally gray shadow daddy.
Because enemies to lovers to enemies to lovers to friends to lovers to enemies to lovers.
Oh,
Wow,
keeps
we're
going.
going on a journey.
Yeah, I mean it's 5 books. They've already covered half of that, basically.
That's fair.
Yes, and the very last line is Jack freaking Barlow saying, "Welcome to our fucked up family. Guess we're brothers now."
Nobody should be on a team with Jack Barlow. That doesn't sit well with me.
So Lauren was like, "You should try to record John's reaction to the end of the book." And I was like, "Okay." And I hit record, and John taps to the last page. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
I was thinking more about specifically the part when he turns Venom, but then I got in here to the notes today, and none of you guys had notes about it, and I was like, "How? This is literally like the biggest part of the whole book. This is the end. This is the giant cliffhanger," and all three of you were just like, "Yeah, that happened."
I guess to me, it's like,
what the heck?
Originally, I thought turning Venom, like I said way earlier, turned you into like this mindless, feral, ghoul-like creature, if you will. But now that I know it's like, oh, okay, well, his eyes are a little red. It's not like a huge stake for me. Because like he's not lost his other, signets. If anything, he's a little more powerful. Sure, he's tempted to suck the life out of the earth, but I mean, like...
He's lost his soul.
He seems to be cognizant. Maybe. I don't know.
And right now his eyes are red, but what did that one pre-chap thing said? It was like initiates or something, or a little bit red,
and stuff
and
like
then
that.
it gets and then it gets
but
progressively
that's the thing,
worse.
Like if he doesn't upgrade himself, then like your eyes are a little red. For
Time to level up.
Well, that's the thing though. It's like he's at the very smallest level of it. I'll maybe get more concerned if he starts being like, oh, I'm drawing from the earth, or I don't know. It's just like it's. I'm sure it sucks for him in some ways, but in other ways, I'm like, he's still totally and completely Xaden, and nothing has changed except for the fact that some people won't like him as much, which
I'm pretty sure everyone will kill him.
Also change that much.
Everyone will probably kill him.
I don't know. They didn't kill Jack. They'll probably just do the same thing that they're doing, trying to heal a soul or whatever.
I don't like any of that.
Really, when we got to this point, Jon was just like, I need time to process. So I got no outward emotion. So now that it's been a few hours, do you have any specific feelings on this yet?
I mean, kind of what I told you for the end of the book. Like, I was just a little bit disappointed with the end. It was just kind of like, I don't know, like it jumps forward to them sleeping. And it's like, okay, did he and Violet not have any conversation in between there at all before they went to bed? And then we don't get what happens. Like, we get his memory up to where he channels.
Yeah.
And I felt like that wasn't really even a cliffhanger for me.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like, well, we don't want to spoil it before the next book. So they just like didn't put it in there. It wasn't like a big like cliffhanger bomb. I was just kind of like, okay, he wakes up right there when, all right. And then he goes to see Jack Barlow, and it's just like, it's not really anything interesting to say from Jack either. He's like, guys, we're brothers now. Like, that's the end of the book.
Yeah,
like,
I think it would have been a bigger effect if they just cut off with Xaden turning and his eyes being red. That would have been like a bigger, like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen now?
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. The jump forward and the conversation with Jack kind of was...
Because like they keep going, but then they don't really she doesn't really give you anything.
Right.
And now I'm just kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they jump forward and you don't even like learn the state of the aftermath of the rest of the battle.
Right.
Yeah.
Sleeping.
So yeah, I was a little disappointed there.
Yeah. I agree that I think it would have been more impactful to end with him like looking up at her. The first time that I read this, again, setting the scene, I was on an airplane and I was trying to finish the book real quick, and I couldn't speak to anyone else about the book because I was on a plane with no Wi-Fi. So I finished it and then I just was like trapped by myself. But I was kind of flying through it and trying to process stuff really fast. And my first impression was like, that didn't feel like a dire enough situation to me, I guess, for him to have channeled after everything else he's been through, like leading up to this point. So on the reread, I feel like I appreciated it a little bit more. Like I think I was able to kind of take my time and process it a little bit more. And then you do get some more of his situation where like Sigil is panicking, and then you see things through Taryn's eyes for a second, and like you kind of get some of that. And then even with his little like flashback dream thing, you get a little bit more.
And when Violet like drops her guards and feels Xaden's emotions, but I'm sure he's feeling all of her emotions in that moment too, where she's processing her mom dying and she's literally giving or about to give up her life for the word stone and stuff.
Yeah. And honestly, like I thought Violet's inner monologue there was a lot more compelling of a reason to channel than what Xaden did.
She was even like, I understand why people would do it or something like that.
Yeah, and she was ready to like give up her own life in that situation. But I do think like the setup of this made me really excited for the next book, because we don't really know anything about Venom. It's obviously like they're like a huge antagonist or whatever you want to call it in the story, but like how else are we going to learn about them unless maybe somebody that we're close to becomes one, or like I was kind of excited about the possibility of whatever comes next after that.
Yeah.
I think just everyone, when like the books were coming out, hated Jack Barlow so much from the first book. So then when he came back, and then of course it ends with Jack, like Zayden, our Zayden is now with this guy, that kind of a thing. That was the reason that ending was ginormous, I feel like.
Yeah.
I feel like this may sound weird, but reading it as a guy who has guy friends that I don't care for, who have also been like, guess we're bros now. In my head, I took it as like no, we're not. But you can think that. That's all it would amount to in my head.
Shut up, Jack. That's fair.
All right, well, I mean, I guess we're kind of talking about it, but do you guys have any final thoughts on all of Iron Flame now that you have finished book 2?
Ah.
I mean, I talked about the end. I liked it for the most part, I think. The whole relationship with like Violet and Zayden was kind of frustrating throughout the book to read. I feel like that never really got resolved fully. I mean, they made some promises about some things, but that's going to change now that this has happened. So I'm thinking that maybe he might not stick around. We'll see. I don't know.
What do you
I don't
mean?
know how it's going to work. I don't know. Well, I'll get to it later.
Oh,
I think
okay.
I got some more details
Okay.
later.
All right.
Loved that we got to see some action.
Yeah.
Loved it. Loved that it was long and just it was really good. Yes, absolutely. All the aerial battles was pretty dope. That's really all I got for that.
I feel like there were times I really slogged through the book. Sort of like for the reasons John was saying, just like trudging through the issues that were being hashed and rehashed by Violet and Zayden. They both have their faults. Zayden's worse in my book for now. I feel like Violet's just sort of falling into like a cost-sunk fallacy of being like, I've spent so much time and effort in this relationship, I have to make it work, instead of just cutting her losses and starting fresh with someone better, like Liam. Am I right? Just kidding, he's dead.
All right.
Kyle.
I do like the story still, but I feel like a lot of it just got lost to that sort of thing where it felt like, every 2 chapters I was like, oh my gosh, back to this argument again. I did like the action. I mean, overall I kind of figured. I never like the middle of a story as much as the beginning or the end. Sort of suffers from the sequel syndrome, I guess you could say, but I do appreciate it for what it is. We got a lot of like deeper lore in the world. It's a transitional book to what I can only assume will be a very different Navarian structure moving forward, if not like a very precarious one. But I feel like that's most of the time what second books do, is they don't have a ton, maybe some character building and then like building up to the bigger stuff later on. But it ends up making me not, probably rank this book high out of the 5.
Yeah.
You're not going to rank a book high? I'm shocked.
Out of the 5, no.
All right, let's move on to character thoughts. Who's your favorite? Who's your least favorite? And then we wrote some characters we just want to know like your specific feelings on. So Lilith, Dane, Kat, Zayden, where you at?
Riddick! He had some great moments in this last section, making me proud. My boy!
My boy.
But also Violet, because we saw her actually like develop her power, and then we got to see that development in action. I thought that was pretty sweet. Using the conduit and all that, so that's pretty cool. Would love to possibly see a Lilith journal make it into Violet's possession. I feel like that would be pretty interesting.
She's a general.
Yeah, they all have those.
Yes. Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah. I mean, like, Dane's fine, I guess. Like, I feel like it might as well be an NPC right now. I have no idea. Like,
Solid
honestly.
take.
Like, I don't really know what's going on. Kat, verdict's still out. She's working her way slowly down to off my list. She keeps up the good work. She keeps up the good work. We'll be good with her. But then Zayden. He's strong, but I'm afraid either Jack or like a Venom teacher is going to get in his head and he's just like not going to be able to fight it or something like that. So I'm worried, a little bit worried. But then it's like, if their relationship is true, like how they've built it, and it's like if somebody dies, then they kind of all die. I mean, that's not going to work. Obviously, like that's not going to happen. So I don't know. I'm kind of torn with how that's going to end up.
Yeah.
Taryn, still my crowd favorite, even if the crowd is just me.
I love
Taryn
him.
has no fans, then I'm dead. He brings the dad energy pretty hard in this section, like saying things like, "But did you die?" basically, whenever he's flying. Also being proud of baby and Darna, breathing her first fire.
Oh.
Yep.
I don't have many thoughts for Lilith, honestly. Thoughts and prayers, mostly, I guess. May her soul be commended to Malk. I misspelled Malik. But
Malk.
Give me some Malk!
It also says Train is still a crowd favorite.
Yeah, that's always autocorrect. I kind of agree with Dane being an NPC. He does seem chill right now, though. He's probably going to be our next B story, I bet, growing, getting a rebound girl, so he's no longer awkwardly pining for a lost cause, that sort of thing. Kat, also cool for now. She's kind of a B still, but kind of into it, so carry on.
Oh.
Xaden sucks, and is totally right that he's not what Violet deserves.
Boom, roasted.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Oh, wow. Okay, thoughts and theories for Onyx Storm. What are you expecting? What are you hoping for? What are you just straight up calling as fact?
Calling some shots.
Where you at? Mm-hmm.
I'm expecting to see some more Venom hierarchy, possibly getting some more insight into how they operate here. Like, I'm assuming Horatio will eventually, like, fall. I mean, it kind of sounds like they could either do one or the other with the, like, the Wardstone. So that's kind of interesting. Actually, I'm having some thoughts trickle in here. So thinking of that. Drip, drip.
Drip, drip.
So, like, can a dragon do it only once
Yeah.
to a Wardstone?
Yeah, only one Wardstone.
Because that's why she had to talk to
Okay.
Coda and ask if he would do this one since Taryn
Oh, I
did.
got you.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
So really, they just need one dragon from Andarna's.
And Darna's.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they got a
Extended
bunch.
Because the rest of them
others,
already
obviously.
fired the stone or whatever.
Yeah, okay. All right. I'm assuming that Xaden will basically be ostracized for this, not really be welcome anywhere, possibly even making a 180 and going to Venom school. Probably not because of, Taryn and Segale. But, like, I don't know, man. Like, this could go so many different ways. I imagine a lot of at least the first bit of the book is going to be him, like, really fighting it hard. But I feel like a natural progression of that is him just not being able to do it anymore, and he's just got to, like, succumb to it, basically.
Yeah. Unless, I always hate it, but, like, if there's, like, a big time jump or something.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Xaden's already gone. I would hate that. But she could do it.
What do you
They're
mean?
just like, 6 months later,
Oh.
after the battle, here's how things are.
Ugh.
Instead of actually sort of,
Oh, yeah.
which would stink.
Yeah.
But I also don't know if, like, Brennan, is he, like, more powerful than Nolan? Like, would he be able to be more successful in trying to, like, mend a soul? That thought also came to
Oh.
me. I don't know.
I know that, like, obviously people can be more powerful than the others. The fact that Nolan is so much older would make me think he's more powerful.
Yeah.
But
That would make sense.
I don't know.
So, I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I just put, obviously, more Venom, more dragons, more lovers' quarrels.
Classic.
I think it would make sense to look for more dragons like Andarna if they're needed to activate Wardstones and can only do one at a time, and she already used her fire at Bisgayeth. Probably even more world lore drops, I would assume, because they're going to have to go other places, obviously. If no one here, including the dragons,
Right.
knows about anyone like her, they're going to have to go find some other nest or something. More death. Even more near death. And lots of questioning who to trust and such. What I hope is that Xaden gets his head out of the Shadow Realm and stops being such a tool. Oh, and I guess I hope he gets a cure or whatever. But I feel like Violet herself might be tempted to soak up some dirt, though, especially if Xaden turns into being like, nah, it's chill, babe, eat up. Like, he's trying to, it's fine, let's do it. We'll be outcasts together. What does it matter if we love each other? You know, all that manipulative stuff.
Just soaking up some dirt.
Soaking up some dirt.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have some additional theory questions that I had written down before Onyx Storm came out. So these were things that a lot of people were theorizing about after Iron Flame. Obviously, a lot of us had over a year to like stew over it, obsess. So you definitely don't have to have a response to all of these things. But if you do, here are some questions. The biggest one, the most widely debated, was what is Violet's second signet? Because after Iron Flame came out, Rebecca Yarros confirmed in an interview that Violet's second signet had manifested during Iron Flame, but that she hadn't recognized it yet.
Rebecca also was surprised that no one figured it out. She thought it was obvious.
Of course she did.
So
I feel like that's a problem of being too close to the issue. Like,
Yeah.
she knows, so of course
Right.
it's obvious to her.
yeah,
We've heard literally everything possible.
Yeah.
I feel like.
for real.
Literally.
I would love for it to be a similar camo thing like Andarna has now.
Mm-hmm.
I also thought it was interesting that the rune she made was like a directional microphone. So maybe something
Ooh.
like that, since she might feel a need for that in some way. It's really all I got, honestly.
Speaking of the camo thing, just very briefly, we've talked about this before, but like, how often are dragons going through that molting season? Because it'd be really sweet, even if she doesn't get camo, to have that sort of iridescent armor. If she could redo it with that really cool
Good
look,
point.
that'd be
That
nice.
would be cool.
Obviously, she couldn't control it to be like, you know, any color, but it would look sweet, I bet.
Yeah.
I feel like, though, I'd have to reread to see any points where I'd say, like, oh, that's suspicious, or oh, how lucky is that, to really theorize, which I'm not going to do. I kind of figured it wouldn't happen until Andarna was, like, up and about, but I guess she technically was for a while in this book. She just didn't get, like, active until a little bit further in. I've said before, and I still think it will be something intrinsic-ish. I've said it before, like, for anyone, because, again, that's such a big thing in this book that someone had to. And even though Xaden does, I still feel like that's a very main character energy to give. But I like the end of the section, I could see it coming around to some, like, precognitive power, because she dreamed so much about, like, a Venom hunting her, but it ended up hunting Xaden instead, and that may have been due to their bond. But that would be pretty similar to Melgren, though, and she seemed capable of communication during those dream sections, so I wouldn't call them visions per se, but maybe like a manifestation of unconscious thoughts, like, I don't know, something like that.
Okay.
Interesting.
I like it. The next one was a question carried over from book one, because we also like really thought we were going to get something about this in Iron Flame, and we didn't. But where is Papa Sor and Gail's research?
I definitely meant to change this, but all I wrote was, have you checked his butthole? Got him.
Helpful.
Classic.
Helpful.
Yep.
My guess is possibly another secret place in the archives. He obviously spent a lot of time there. So
See, you can help me look for secret doors.
Slap some walls.
You gotta slap some
More
walls.
secret doors.
I got the wall slapping signet.
Hey, that chick got a friend. They're both slapping walls now.
It's like that band, Stomp. They're just making music.
Yeah, they're called Slap.
Oh my god.
One sort of commonly discussed thing was, what is Garrick's signet? Because up to this point, we haven't seen it. There's been like no confirmation of what it is. And he's one of the, I wouldn't say he's like a main character, but one of like the kind of
C-tier.
side characters we don't know. Yeah.
He's like in the core of the marked ones. He's one of
He's
the
the
core
satellite
marked
friend.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, you kind of answered it, but all I wrote was like, have we not seen it? Like, I feel like we should have, but it's been so long I forgot. But also, like, where has he even been?
Right.
Honestly, I don't remember seeing his name in quite a while. So
We heard about
that was just one of
Chad,
those-
but
Chad.
because Chad was worried about the runes,
Yeah.
but
typical Chad.
Chad and those runes.
And then there was lots of speculation on who Violet's ex-boyfriend is. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I just saw John's answer to this. We know infantry is a spot-on guess because she said that whenever Xaden was guessing. So I was like, so that's a start. Given that, and like you said earlier, her having close past relationships with children of high society who weren't allowed to be writers, as we know from Arik sneaking in, I would bet it's like a fancy pants infantryman with a pedigree. Like someone who's like a little, maybe a little Nepo baby in the army over there.
Okay. All right.
Sure.
My answer was, who cares? It's infantry. Guy's probably dead already.
Oh my God.
Solid.
Got him. Do you think Sigale will break her bond with Xaden? Is that even something that's possible? It was just something we debated a lot. If like he turns Venom at the end of this book, it seemed like she was upset with him.
Yeah. I don't know. I just don't see this happening because of what it could mean for Vi and especially Taryn with the bond. So that's kind of what I'm basing all of that on. Even with Xaden and stuff, trying to leave or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just so many levels to that because, like, a bonded dragon and their human can't be apart for so many days. But Sigale was, like, screaming at him not to channel and then wasn't talking to him at the end of the book.
Yeah.
But we've also not seen a Venom with a dragon. So.
Right.
Yeah, but does it say, like, obviously if their dragon dies, they die? Is that because of the loss of the bond? And they're just like, oh, so broken, my soul.
Yeah, I think.
Like if she dropped the bond, he would die. I don't know.
Yeah,
Right.
but we saw with Jack that he just channeled from the earth and took the bond that way.
Oh, that's true.
Like replaced the
might
bond or
survive it
whatever.
in that
Yeah.
way. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Do we think that Xaden actually killed the sage? We've already touched on that a little bit.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Stick to the no body, no death theory.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was just saying, like, considering we didn't get any of the story after Xaden channels, and then also the Venom being a maven.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm going to guess, like, probably not.
Yeah.
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 Even if he did get all the way down there and he's miles down, like, he's still probably okay,
Pissed.
I guess. Yeah.
Probably.
This is another carried over question from book one. I wrote, sorry, Kyle, because there was an episode in book one where Kyle was like, if we don't get an answer for this in the next 2 episodes, I'm going to be pissed.
Yeah. I was like, wow, he's going to be disappointed.
So we still don't know, why is Violet's hair silver? Do you have any like thoughts or theories about it?
Yeah, I wrote probably something Venom related that one of her parents did. Probably her dad, since her mom is dead now, and I'm sure he'll explain later.
He'll explain
Wait, what?
like he's still alive.
I don't know. She'll find some other journal or some crap where he's like, today I helped your mom not be Venom. Oops.
Interesting.
Okay.
Oops.
All right. And then also some speculation on Arik's signet. Any?
Have there been signs?
idea.
Didn't he say he hadn't manifest? Like, I think he straight up said, like, I got nothing.
Yeah,
but that doesn't mean
but
he
it was
will
just
in
kind
the
of
next book. It's just
yeah,
what do you
just
think
kind
it
of
will
speculation
be?
on what it might be.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I got nothing on that either.
Again, we had like over a year to really ponder all of like anything you could possibly wonder.
Because it's
Yeah.
based
Well,
off
and there's
of
all the
need, I feel like.
conversations, of need and like him being the king's son,
Yeah.
and what could that mean that he would need, and blah blah blah. But
Yeah,
Not money.
it's not a money making signet. Do you think that Xaden will be cured?
I give it 50-50. Could he be? Maybe. Would he? Who knows?
Wow, what an answer.
wow,
Really calling
Probably
the
your best
shots.
one of the series. I'm going to say I don't think so. At least at this point, it seems like once you draw power, it's kind of over. It's just a matter of controlling it if you're able to, as long as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that we're going to find out who Xaden's mom is? Do you think she's alive or potentially Venom?
She's probably living it up, sipping Mai Tais on the beach, not a care in the world.
Still alive, betting on Venom.
all right.
And who do you think will get together in Onyx Storm?
This is Lauren's area of expertise. Obviously, she's already read the book. But if Sawyer and Jasenia doesn't happen, I'll be disappointed. Jasenia, I don't know.
Sure.
Also, Riddick and several underclassmen, am I right?
Ew.
Ew.
Give him the upperclassmen, too.
That's what people seem to go for. Zayden went for one.
Yeah, well.
Sawyer and Jasenia, both show. I would love to see Riddick find his counterpart, and then we get some seriously hilarious back and forths with someone who can take and dish out the same kind of hogwash that he lays down.
Hogwash.
I love it.
Funny. The last one is, what do you think Onyx Storm means? And we had talked about that before with Fourth Wing. We were all like, oh, it's Fourth Wing. And then Iron Flame, it actually kind of meant something as far as the book. So there was a lot of speculation when the title was revealed as to what it would mean. What do you got?
I didn't think about titles mattering until literally last episode. So, I don't know. Dragons, shadow magic, onyx ward stones, onyx colored venom eyes, lightning, raw power. Who knows? There's a lot of things there that could be involved.
Fair.
Maybe Zayden's power growing in some way, especially if it, enhances what they already have, their signet.
Yeah.
Or possibly like getting a little more unpredictable with his power. Or maybe Onyx is referring to the color of dragon, so it's like a legion of black dragons or something, like an Onyx Storm.
Nice.
Sweet.
Yeah,
Now
that's
that
all
you
I
say
got.
that, it would be neat to see if they learn how to, because we were talking earlier about signets working together, if they could combine their lightning and shadow powers to make one large attack or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be pretty dope.
Okay, so that takes us to our rating of the book. What star rating do you give it? I, of course, give it 5 big stars. Big ones.
Big ones.
Boom! Boom!
Stars! 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 I clearly spent all day yesterday for 21 hours with high school students. Big stars. Okay, anyway, sorry.
I also gave this 5 stars. I will say, of the 3 books so
You
far,
did not
this
give
is
it stars.
I gave it 5 stars.
Thank you.
That's what I wrote.
That's what you wrote.
In the outline. STOARS stores. I gave it 5 stores, but I will say, out of the 3 books so far, this is my least favorite, just because it feels a little bit like a setup book, and I struggled with pacing a little bit. More so on my first read than my second. I think I enjoyed it a lot more this time around, being able to take my time with it a little bit more. And after we had done this long reread of Fourth Wing, I just felt like the pieces were all falling into place a little bit more. I was picking up on some more things that I didn't miss the first time. So I still really love this book and this whole series. And there's so much stuff sprinkled into this one, and the battle scenes and signets developing and all the things. I love it. So 5 stars.
I gave it the old 3.3 stars. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Self-explanatory.
Nice.
3.5 for me.
Wow.
Not even stars, just 3.5.
Yeah, just 3.5.
Okay.
That's
Got it.
Just a number.
Yeah.
Repeating what I've kind of already said already, but I don't know. It's just wasn't definitely not 4-worthy. The battles were nice at the end, but we really only got the big one at the end for the most part. Yeah.
I do remember thinking on my first read, I finished part 1 and I was like, this could have been its own book. I loved part 1 so much. And then part 2, I felt like I struggled a lot more with the pacing and the arguments and all of that stuff.
Yeah,
Honestly,
that's what I was about to say. It felt like almost 2 books.
Yeah.
And sometimes I forget part 1 was even part of Iron Flame because you get so much into part 2 and it feels like its own different story.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know how to say it. First of all, this podcast makes any book infinitely more enjoyable, or any book club we've done in the group as well. But I don't think I would have DNF'd this book because that sounds purposeful. But if I was reading it on my own with no one reading along with me, I think I would have forgotten to finish after one point. There would have been a point that I put the book down and I might have I don't know, over a 2 or 3 day weekend, if I didn't read it, I would have forgot that I was reading it until I was "Oh, would you like that book?" I was like, "Oh, I don't know if I ever finished it." But
I could see that.
Yeah.
I remember saying to Lauren when I was trying to come up with the schedule for the episodes, because I wanted to make sure the pacing felt, decent in the episode schedule. And I was like, I just felt like they were on the Cliffs of Draelor forever on my first read. I don't know what it was about that. I literally felt like they were there for half the book. And then doing the reread on the podcast, I didn't feel like they were there that long, but I think it's because we just did it all in one section. So, I don't know. It did change that for me.
Also, you read through the book really fast, so maybe that was just the time that you picked it up and sat down a couple times, as where other times you just sat and read through other things super, super fast.
Yeah, definitely could be.
All right, so this takes us to the final cry counter after Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. I am still only at 3. Connor.
Oh, boy.
I never thought this would happen. I'm in the lead now with 4.
no.
Oh,
Cried for
wow.
freaking Lilith.
What did our review say? Isn't it funny how much they cried? It's hilarious how much they cried. I'm laughing right now at you, Connor.
Give me the clown emoji.
Oh, no. Don't bring up the clown emoji.
I hope that 2, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9, 6, 4 is getting their giggles right now.
Did you scroll all the way back up to look at that?
I did.
I love it.
Still at 0 for me.
Yep.
Yep.
0.
Okay. Guys, we did it. We read the book.
Wow.
We read the
That's
book.
it. That's it for Iron Flame. Next week, we are going to be starting Onyx Storm.
Crazy.
I can't believe how quickly this has come.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like I was waiting for Onyx Storm for forever. What?
Yeah. Nothing. It's fine.
Always waiting for the Onyx Storm.
I just felt like I was waiting for that book for literally forever, and so
Yes.
for it to just be here so quickly on the podcast is wild to me. But
I'm
Yeah.
so
I'm
excited.
excited.
Yes. So next week, join us for chapters 1 through 9 of Onyx Storm. And before you go, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode. And then follow us over on Instagram and TikTok at Between Pages and Friends for our podcast schedules, announcements, behind the scenes, more book-related nonsense.
And for even more book-related nonsense, don't forget to check out our Patreon. Hit up betweenpagesandfriends.com for that link. Merchity merch, Amazon storefront full of our must-haves. We got GoodReads, StoryGraph, links to our TBRs, and so much more. Until next time, y'all, stay wordy, stay nerdy, don't stress, and stay blessed.
Bye-bye.
see you later.
Bye.
Bye, buddy.
How's that? Hour
Wait,
of
where's
sleep
what would
lost
Pep
working
Talk
for
Dragon
everyone?
say?
May your souls be commended to Mel.
Thanks, Pep Talk.
That's so great.
See you later, Pep Talk Dragon.
Oh, God. Incredible. May your souls be commended by Moloch.
You know, if you wear the Pep Talk Dragon costume, I hear you get a free ride.
Oh,
goodness
wow. John, the way you said it sounded like you had to pull the string on his back. I was like, and it would sound the same way every time.
I can't imagine how offended the dragons would be if there was a mascot dragon running
Talk
around.
Dragon. After threshing a first year unbonded, that's their new
I'll
job
go
is
to
to be the
Enchanticon as
mascot.
Pep Talk Dragon.
You bond Pep Talk Dragon if you don't get a real one.
Oh, my
After
gosh.
threshing.
That's the worst.
Oh, man.